2017 they started this initiative, and what their initiative was, by the year 2021, so that time there was no concept of pandemic at all. Nobody was hearing about pandemic, but they made a concept that, okay, Vision 2021 is that by the year 21, the entire government department, they should offer their services, online services. Means it should be available on the laptop or it should be available on the mobile also. So anybody is traveling around the world, on their actually palm, they are able to do every type of government transaction across the government industry. This was, and almost 99% they have completed actually this process. That's the beauty. And second one is that they said actually by 2021, all the government activities we should be able to do cashless. That means online transactions they should be able to do. And they are actually developing a blockchain technology only for UAE. That is actually UAE blockchain technology they are developing to support actually this activity. And the third, they said that, okay, by 2021, all the government services should be available 24/7. If it is available online, there is no working hours for the government department. You can apply something to the government even midnight also. You are getting actually services on your computer. So all the services available on online, 24/7. All the services are available on laptop and mobile, and all the services should be cashless mode. So this was exactly the model they made it on this one. And they started, particularly on the education area, they started a great free zones area, especially for higher education. Not only there, we know that in different countries, education free zones are here. But in UAE, what they done is that in Dubai, one step ahead, they are allowing these education institutes, that means all the great universities, to start their own free zones. So just imagine that some students who are doing their higher education, they can start their own business during this process. So this way, the government is allowing actually for starting the free zones also along with this one. So students are getting a great chance to apply their entrepreneurship skills during their course, and the professors can help it out. And it is an incubation center inside actually the university. So even they can run the business from there, and later stage only they have to come out on this one. And no wonder actually there is a ranking called GEM, that is Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. This is a worldwide organization which is actually giving the ranking, and UAE got actually this year the 16th rank in the world. So she's saying is that which is a country enabling this entrepreneurship in a great way. So this way, UAE is completely geared up for the fourth industrial revolution. They have blockchain technology. They have IoT, Internet of Things, because one side the big data is available, another side actually 5G technology where the fast processing is possible, and artificial intelligence, there is an exclusive minister for the artificial intelligence. So there is a lot of sustainable developments, etc. happening, robotics concepts are happening. So let me conclude actually my presentation here. So my point is here, United Arab Emirates is a very small country with a small population, but they had the vision that, okay, we should be able to use the technology with the government. So the stakeholders are, one is the government, second one is the technology, third one is the corporates, and fourth one is the institutions, fifth one is the society or individuals. All put together, they made actually the great ecosystem in order to embrace this technology. So I believe that when this pandemic has affected, of course, there was a lot of difficulty for the government. People could come out, or the economy could come out very fast, so the resilience was much faster. Thank you very much for this great opportunity for presenting this paper to State Islamic University. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to hear any questions from you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. What a fantastic presentation from you. Now we are going to the next session, that is question and answer session. We already have a question from Harfansi Perma. The institution is Srimata Vaishnu Devi University, India. The question is, I want to ask you that what are the steps Dubai government is taking in the pandemic for the local people and poor people around the country? Is it clear, Mr.?
Yeah, question was very clear. Thank you for the question.
Okay.
The answer is there are two types of people are here. One is, as I mentioned, the total population is only 10 million. Out of that, 80% of the people, 80% of the people are expatriates, the people from different countries, people from India, people from Pakistan, people from Philippines, Indonesia, different Arab countries, Egypt and all those places. Only 20% of the people are the local people. So local people are always getting a lot of social security from the government. So that social security the government has enhanced, and they were actually in the safe hands. And for the expatriate community, of course, the government was not as to the people. Instead of that, what the government done is that government supported actually the organizations to reduce the government taxes or the government fees and everything. At the same time, there are a lot of social welfare organizations. They pool a lot of resources for supporting actually the community. So I found that this process was.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Can you answer one more question from Indonesia? Hello, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, what was the question, please?
Okay, one more question. Do you think a concept of free zone is fair enough for a small business and developing countries?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Okay. Do you think a concept of free zone is fair enough for a small business and developing countries?
I heard actually how the free zone is helping small business in a country.
Yes, free.
Yeah, see,
The concept of free zone.
Yeah, see, the concept of free zone is not a new thing. It is there in the world for almost last 20 plus years. Free zone is largely to attract the foreign direct investment to that country. So you travel globally, you can see that most of the countries, they have free zones in their country. But always we have to understand that Dubai gone actually one step ahead. They have made a free zone exclusively for different type of industries. For example, there is a free zone they made along with the airport. They call it as airport free zone. So all the business related to aviation or all the business which is very close to, for example, logistics, courier, all those business are coming under that free zone. There was another free zone they started only for the internet facility or the technology. There is a free zone they have started for education. So a purpose-built free zones are always giving a lot of advantage to attract and address the issues in those industries. And just for your information, now the Dubai's latest free zone they started, it is for the e-commerce business, because they found that in globally, e-commerce is the industry which is growing more than 20% annually. So there is a lot of growth and headroom is available for that industry. Dubai came out with an exclusive free zone which is for the e-commerce business. So all e-commerce people can come over there, their issues will be addressed and all their facilities will be taken care of. So answer to your question, first of all, free zones are the great tool to attract the foreign direct investment across the globe. Second one is that it is not only the free zone, but how efficient the free zone which is giving the right results. And the free zones are always advantage for the small business as well as big business into a new country. Thank you.
Okay. I think your presentation is very interesting because we have another question. Is it okay, Mr.?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there a free quota assistance for all schools, especially teachers and students? And how to respond to parents who have been affected by COVID so that they cannot pay school fees? It is from Indonesia.
Yeah, interesting question. In Dubai, there is an authority called KHDA, that is Knowledge and Human Development Authority. This is an umbrella organization which is taken care of the entire education system. So they divide the education system into three: preschools, schools, and higher education. So they make all the guidelines for the schools, physical infrastructure. Every year they go and do the inspection. And nowadays they started to approve the courses for the teachers also. So if you are a teacher who are qualified, experienced, working in any schools, they said that is fine, but within 2 years time you have to undergo the course that is done by online course done by KHDA. So this way they standardize the entire education system. Now, answer to this question, when the pandemic started, the entire education converted into online. Students started to do the courses from online. So some of the schools, because a lot of private schools are there, some of the schools management, they reduce the prices, they reduce some fees. Some of the schools, they offered some scholarships. Some of the schools, even just for your information, there are thousands of frontline COVID employees, those who are doctors, nurses, work in the ambulance, hospitals, etc. Now Dubai government is, or UAE government is giving the entire 1 year education fees for their kids as a scholarship. So the government is acknowledging that you people done a great job. So your kids are actually next to 1 year, all the school fees they are just giving as a scholarship. So there are different helping hands are coming. One is from individual school management. Second one is that from different organizations they have given scholarships, and some government also are allowing actually the scholarship. And I still believe that there are some parents also suffered because they lost the job, their salaries reduced and all. That case-to-case system, it is getting addressed over there. But the pain has reduced much here because of the pandemic.
Okay, thank you very much for Mr. Thomas. Because we have limited time, but actually there are some questions more. Maybe we will send it to you by email.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Would you like to send your material to the committee right after this, please?
Sure, I will.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that is the end of our third presentation. Thank you so much for Mr. Judy Thomas. See you again in another event and stay safe.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Okay, now we move to our last presenter, Dr. Amita Vikram Dwivedi from India. Are you there, Dr. Amitabh?
Yeah, I am very much here.
Okay. Okay. I will give more information about you. Okay, Dr. Amita Vikram Dwivedi is a university faculty of linguistics and heading the School of Languages and Literature at Sri Mata Vaishno Devi University, India. His research interests include language documentation, writing descriptive grammars, and the preservation of rare and endangered languages in South Asia. His published books can be found in the libraries of University of Stanford and Princeton. He has contributed numerous papers to many science citation index and Scopus journals. And he is also a poet who has published numerous poems in different anthologies, journals, and magazines worldwide. Wow. Okay, Dr. Amitabh, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, over to you.
Okay, thank you for your kind introduction. And the topic that I have selected for my presentation, I'm sharing the slide. Allow me to share the slide.
Yes,
And
please.
I hope now you are able to see the slide. The topic that I have selected is employing cognitive strategies for online reading and note-taking. So this is a topic because we know that we are living in a pandemic society, and that is a new normal, and we have accepted that this is our fate. And how to deal with this situation, particularly when we are reading something, we are teaching to our students, and we are making notes, or we are teaching our students how they should prepare notes. So this presentation is about these things. And as I said, I'm talking about the cognitive strategies. Then first I would like to tell you what cognitivism deals with. So basically cognitivism is a theory of learning. And as we know that if we want to learn something, it requires the use of memory. And whatever we read, we need to reflect upon that. And we need some metacognition, motivation, and abstraction at the same time. So cognitivism makes active mental processes. So it makes use of active mental processes. And what are active mental processes? Like attention, memory span, then the information that we are receiving. So that is basically the primary object of this study. And we know that information processes are seen as the foundation of learning in cognitivism. We also know that whatever the information we gain, whatever the information we receive, it remains for a fraction of a second in the sensory store. And if it is not transferred to active memory instantly, then it is lost forever. Now, the task of the teacher is very crucial because the teacher is sending information, imparting information to his her pupils, students all the time, and students are getting new information. And if that information is not transferred into active memory, then that information is going to be lost forever. So I'm just going to tell you certain techniques that will be useful for students as well as teachers, that how how efficiently they can do this transfer. Yes. So, from the cognitive perspective, it is important for educators to create conditions and strategies for learners that facilitate connections between new information and old information. Because old information is already there in the long-term memory, and new information is to be transformed, or and transferred to the active memory, and later on into the long-term memory. So there are certain pre-instructional cognitive strategies. They can promote the learning and retention of new information and thus support the learning process. So this is basically the aim of this presentation, that how the role of teacher is very important. So these are certain cognitive strategies that we have: repetition, organizing new language, summarizing meaning, guessing meaning from context, using imagery for memorization, and developing argumentation thinking. So these are the things that are directly related to cognitive strategies, and they can be used effectively in a class. So this is one type of note-taking method, and it deals with, as you can see that on the top, the student will write the biographic detail of the text. So the student will write the name of the title of the text, the name of the authors, when it is published, the name of the publication house, all such things the student will write on the top margin. Then on the left hand side, the student, what student will write? The student will paraphrase the notes. The student will write the summaries of important information. A student can directly write the exact quotations that are used, and a student can also write the information related to page number, paragraph number, for accuracy in citation. Then as you can see that there is a red portion that is rather broad, and here the student will raise certain questions that is related to the class. So this is like how the information is relevant to my purpose. So accordingly, this question student will raise and write accordingly, that this information can be used in such and such fields. Then how does this information relate to my assignment? Where will I use it in my assignment? And the topics that are related to the subject. Then other questions like, does the author say anything new or of a particular interest? Do I have questions? Is there anything that I don't understand that I need to follow up? So why these questions are there actually? Because these questions are, they will work as a brainstorming activity. They will make you think. they will make students think. So once these questions are there in front of students, let's say in a PDF file or in a Word file, or let's say on a piece of paper, then student, whatever the topic student is listening or learning, student can relate to that topic and think about in terms of the answers, the possible answers that he is getting. So it is like a self introspection a student is getting, and this type of detail will help student to connect the new knowledge in practical purpose, or in order to transfer the new knowledge into active memory. So this is one type of method students can use, where they can have a quite significant knowledge of the texts that are dealt with, and the paraphrased and summaries and whatever is discussed in the text. Then another method students can use, or even the teachers, they can use, that is known as this mind mapping process. Now, mind mapping process is you are simply mapping your own mind. So whatever is going on related to a topic in your mind, lots of associations, lots of permutations and combinations that are related, that you can map, and then you can make such sort of a presentation type thing that you will understand very clearly. So let's say here one example, I am going to talk about creative language. So what I have written like I'm talking about creative language, then how creative language is associated with the poetic function, then how creative language is associated with performance, and then I have also written like how Roman Jacobson, these these critiques and these linguists, how and what do they feel about this poetic function. And I have also mentioned Roman Jacobson's book, the title of the book, and the publications detail I have also mentioned. Then it is a relation between language use in culture and society. So how creative language is actually used in culture and society, that can also be the part of. So lots of things you are writing. So creative language in the text, as well as creative language in action, gestures, and all such things. So this is my mind mapping. So if I have this information, I can talk about, let's say, for 1 hour. Looking at this slide, and even like if I go through this slide in 2-3 minutes, then I can know all the things that are associated with things. So this is a mind mapping and very fruitful activity when you want to revise your topic. It is again a type of a note taking process, where you just map whatever the things that are associated with a particular topic in your mind. So this is again a very effective method that you can use, and your students can also use. Then this is like if you are teaching short stories, if you are teaching, let's say, novel, then you can guide your students that they can prepare a story map, that what is the settings, who are the characters, what are the problems with those characters, and whether the plot is simple or complex, what are the events associated with specific characters, and if there is a problem, how that particular problem is resolved. So these are other things that are associated, and then teacher can guide them to do. Then this is a visualizer, and this visualizer is, as you can see here, it is empty, because this is again a form of a mind mapping, where you have various arrows and sections and subsections, where you can direct your thought to a final version. So you can use this empty template, as well as you can modify it and make it on your own, and you can again make a good note using this visualizer. Then another such method is Cornell method, and again you find that there are 3 sections, like the left hand side is a narrow one, and the right hand side is a broad one, and in the bottom you will find that a column, a small.
Yes.
There. So
Yes, Minister, 1 more minute.
yeah, please. So in the bottom, you find that you will write the summary of that column, summary of the text, and like what the lecture dealt with, that you can write. And then in the Q columns, like you can write after the class, students write down questions, Qs, which can be used later for review. When you study, cover the notes column, and review using your notes in the Q column. Then in the notes column, the student records lecture notes, making use of as much as shorthand as possible, leaving spaces. So a telegraphic language student needs to use, because a lecture is of, let's say, 40 minutes or 1 hour, then you need to write the thrust of that particular lecture, because you can't write everything that teacher has dealt with. So this is how this cornell method is quite useful. Then another method is the T method, and this T method is slightly different from the Cornell method, because on the top you will write dates, page number, and other bibliographic detail that you can write. And in the left-hand side column, you will write steps for examples and practice problem. And in the right-hand side, you record notes for yourself, and there are certain questions, if any, that you can write them down. You can ask those questions to your teacher, or in the next class you can also ask those. Now, the last thing, the last point that is quite effective, particularly, and it is the part of this cognitive strategy, is developing argumentative thinking, because argumentative thinking is basically deals with the multiple voices that are there. So it is not actually the case that the one point of view the teacher is telling, that is the final point of view. You can argument. So argument is not in terms of a negative argumentation or you are creating a disruption, but it is like multiple voices, a more democratic setup where you can interact with your teacher, because when you have an interaction, then you can develop an argumentative thinking. So interaction is the very basis, and Bakhtin also talks about this in his work. And with this argumentative thinking, there is a term heteroglossia that is also associated, where multiple voices are not only heard, but they are appreciated. And then how can you have an argumentative thinking when you have a dialogue with the text? So sometimes text, let's say the person is available, your teacher is available, so you can have a dialogue with your teacher. But when you are reading a PDF file written by some author, the author is absent. So how can you interact with an absent author? The way is, you can just use the margin of the book. So you can use the margin, let's say left-hand side margin, top margin, and bottom margin, and whatever the sentences and paragraphs you are reading, you just question those things, whether you agree with them, you disagree with them, what is your viewpoint, what is in your local context, these things will happen. So this is the way you can have a dialogue with the text. Uh, so. But you need to understand, first of all, what is an argument and what is not. So argument is basically a continuous process. So you need to continuously arguing with the text. You need to have a dialogue with the text. So one utterance follows another utterance. Let's say this presentation I am giving, this is again in the form of a dialogue, because we have a question answer session immediately after this. So once my presentation is over, then participants will raise their question, and then I will answer those. So this is again a sort of an argumentative type of seminar, and not one-sided. So teachers should make their presentation argumentative, where students, they have a voice, they can raise their question, and the teacher will reply them. So this is like one method that you can use once you read some text, when the author is absent, or when the initiator is absent. Once you are reading a PDF file, or once you are reading something online, the folded paper approach, and where you can fold the paper into two pieces, or you can make two columns in a document Word file. And what you will do on the fold a piece of paper half vertically. On the left-hand side page, you will make statements about what the text is saying. On the right-hand side, you will question these statements. So what type of questions you can just subject any text to this process, whatever the text, technical, literature-wise, poetry, prose, anything that you are reading, you can take into consideration, and you can do it accordingly.
Okay, Mr. Amitabh?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now we move to the session of question and answer.
Fine.
We
Okay.
have a
thank you all.
question from Indonesia. The question is, do you think mind mapping is applicable for all skills in English?
Pardon, mind mapping is applicable to?
For all skills in English.
Yes, mind mapping activity is applicable to any field of study, irrespective of the fact whether you are studying a scientific subject or you are studying a literary topic. Mind mapping is a process where you map your own mind. Whatever is your understanding about the topic, accordingly you can add certain columns, add certain boxes, and you can show how uh, how better you have understood that thing, and that is basically the mind mapping process. So it is simply a reflection to your understanding, what you have understood. This is my say.
Okay. Maybe we have one more question.
Yeah, please.
What is the difference between visualizer and mind mapping? Which one is the best for EFL learners, do you think?
So once you look at the visualizer, then you will find it is more systematic, and you have various columns in one direction. So it is like you can consider visualizer as a unilateral way of diagramming whatever's there in your mind. So you either start from bottom to top, or you can start from top to bottom. But when it comes to mind mapping, that is quite different from visualizers, because the arrows, the boxes, and the things, the columns, they can go anywhere. They can go anywhere because you are not channelizing them in one direction. So visualizer is unidirectional model, whereas when it comes to mind mapping, it is multi-directional model. This is basically the difference. So certain people, they are multitasking. So similarly, if you are multitasking, then you have this skill of multi-directionalness. And if you are like very systematic, then you are unidirectional. So this is basically the difference between visualizer and the mind mapping.
Okay, for more question, maybe we can send to you directly after this, Mr. Amitabh, because we have a limited time.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. That was fantastic presentation. And would you mind to send your material to the committee right after this?
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Amitabh. This is our last session. Please give applause to all of our presenters. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have spent about an hour and a half with the very fantastic presenters, great materials, and enthusiastic participants. Finally, this is the end of the session. Thank you very much for being with us today. See you again in another event. Stay safe and stay positive. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, over to co-coordinator. Moderator, please.
Thank you, Ms. Rostanti Toba. And now to all participants, where we have 5 minutes break to prepare for season 2. So please stay tuned and watch our video while waiting for the next session. Thank you.
Kota ini cukup besar dan padat, memiliki sungai terpanjang dan menggunakan simbol satwa endemik besut. ialah Kota Samarinda, merupakan pusat pemerintahan ibu kota Kalimantan Timur. Dari masa ke masa, kota ini terus menunjukkan peningkatan, tak hanya di sektor perekonomian, namun juga di sektor pendidikan. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Samarinda merupakan pendidikan tinggi pertama yang mengedepankan pengetahuan agama Islam. Merupakan buah tangan dari beberapa tokoh yang tergabung dalam organisasi Islam. Demi meningkatkan mutu pendidikan, IAIN Samarinda terus melakukan serangkaian kerjasama di bidang pendidikan, baik bertaraf nasional maupun internasional, melalui program kerjasama yang dijalin dengan berbagai lembaga terkait. Sejak berdiri sampai sekarang, Institut Agama Islam Negeri IAIN Samarinda telah mengalami 9 kali periode kepemimpinan. Tokoh-tokoh inilah yang membawa IAIN Samarinda tumbuh dan berkembang dan terus mengalami kemajuan dan peningkatan dari waktu ke waktu. Infrastruktur pendidikan didukung beberapa gedung bertingkat, dilengkapi dengan fasilitas penunjang berupa gedung perpustakaan, laboratorium, dan masjid untuk praktik ilmu agama Islam dengan menerapkan konsep lingkungan hijau.
والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون.
Tidak hanya pada tumbuh kembang fasilitas, namun juga pengembangan pada fakultas dan jurusan seperti Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan, Fakultas Syariah, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam, Fakultas Usuluddin, Adab dan Dakwah, Program Pasca Sarjana atau Magister, untuk menjamin kualitas pendidikan di tiap fakultas IAIN Samarinda memiliki lembaga penjamin mutu atau LPM yang menjadi pusat quality assurance dalam menciptakan budaya mutu tridharma perguruan tinggi demi mewujudkan visi IAIN Samarinda. Sebagai perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam negeri di Kalimantan Timur, IAIN Samarinda selalu mengedepankan pendalaman ilmu agama Islam, namun tidak mengesampingkan ilmu pengetahuan, penguasaan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Inggris dengan bimbingan dosen yang berpengalaman di taraf nasional maupun internasional agar mereka nantinya mampu meraih prestasi yang membanggakan. Untuk itu, IAIN Samarinda memandang perlu adanya sebuah lembaga yang mampu melaksanakan program unggulan. Maka dibentuklah Ma'had Al-Jami'ah atau pesantren kampus. Dengan diikuti seluruh mahasiswa baru IAIN Samarinda dalam kurun waktu 1 tahun. Terlepas dari itu, puluhan unit kegiatan mahasiswa hadir untuk mengembangkan minat bakat serta potensi mahasiswa.
This event will be our last big event because the next generation.
Sebagai cikal bakal ibu kota negara yang baru, IAIN akan berevolusi menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri dengan meningkatkan fasilitas yang dimiliki, tenaga pengajar, hingga terus mencetak prestasi. IAIN Samarinda bersama pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur terus bekerja sama dalam peningkatan mutu pendidikan melalui berbagai cara. Salah satunya pemberian beasiswa, serta tidak kalah pentingnya, lulusan perguruan tinggi mampu mengisi formasi-formasi pekerjaan, baik di pemerintahan ataupun swasta.
Kebijakan politik suatu negara mempengaruhi kondisi dan situasi pendidikan yang ada di sekitarnya. Dengan perubahannya kebijakan, Republik Indonesia ibu kotanya akan berpindah ke Kalimantan atau Borneo. Menuntut kita semua, termasuk IAIN Samarinda, untuk berbuat yang terbaik sesuai dengan tuntutan peradaban bangsa. Selamat bergabung dengan IAIN Samarinda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kota ini cukup besar dan padat, memiliki sungai terpanjang dan menggunakan simbol satwa endemik besut. Ialah kota Samarinda, merupakan pusat pemerintahan ibu kota Kalimantan Timur. Dari masa ke masa, kota ini terus menunjukkan peningkatan, tak hanya di sektor perekonomian, namun juga di sektor pendidikan. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Samarinda merupakan pendidikan tinggi pertama yang mengedepankan pengetahuan agama Islam. Merupakan buah tangan dari beberapa tokoh yang tergabung dalam organisasi Islam. Demi meningkatkan mutu pendidikan, IAIN Samarinda terus melakukan serangkaian kerjasama di bidang pendidikan, baik bertaraf nasional maupun internasional, melalui program kerjasama yang dijalin dengan berbagai lembaga terkait. Sejak berdiri sampai sekarang, Institut Agama Islam Negeri IAIN Samarinda telah mengalami 9 kali periode kepemimpinan. Tokoh-tokoh inilah yang membawa IAIN Samarinda tumbuh dan berkembang dan terus mengalami kemajuan dan peningkatan dari waktu ke waktu. Infrastruktur pendidikan didukung beberapa gedung bertingkat, dilengkapi dengan fasilitas penunjang, berupa gedung perpustakaan, laboratorium, dan masjid untuk praktik ilmu agama Islam dengan menerapkan konsep lingkungan hijau.
والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون.
Tidak hanya pada tumbuh kembang fasilitas, namun juga pengembangan pada fakultas dan jurusan seperti Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan, Fakultas Syariah, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam, Fakultas Usuluddin, Adab dan Dakwah, Program Pasca Sarjana atau Magister, Untuk menjamin kualitas pendidikan, di tiap fakultas IAIN Samarinda memiliki lembaga penjamin mutu atau LPM yang menjadi pusat quality assurance dalam menciptakan budaya mutu tridharma perguruan tinggi demi mewujudkan visi IAIN Samarinda. Sebagai perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam negeri di Kalimantan Timur, IAIN Samarinda selalu mengedepankan pendalaman ilmu agama Islam, namun tidak mengesampingkan ilmu pengetahuan, penguasaan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Inggris dengan bimbingan dosen yang berpengalaman di taraf nasional maupun internasional agar mereka nantinya mampu meraih prestasi yang membanggakan. Untuk itu, IAIN Samarinda memandang perlu adanya sebuah lembaga yang mampu melaksanakan program unggulan. Maka dibentuklah Ma'had Al-Jami'ah atau pesantren kampus. Dengan diikuti seluruh mahasiswa baru IAIN Samarinda dalam kurun waktu 1 tahun. Terlepas dari itu, puluhan unit kegiatan mahasiswa hadir untuk mengembangkan minat, bakat, serta potensi mahasiswa.
This event will be our last big event because the next generation.
Sebagai cikal bakal ibu kota negara yang baru, IAIN akan berevolusi menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri dengan meningkatkan fasilitas yang dimiliki, tenaga pengajar, hingga terus mencetak prestasi. IAIN Samarinda bersama pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur terus bekerja sama dalam peningkatan mutu pendidikan melalui berbagai cara. Salah satunya pemberian beasiswa, serta tidak kalah pentingnya, lulusan perguruan tinggi mampu mengisi formasi-formasi pekerjaan, baik di pemerintahan ataupun swasta.
Spiritualitas, intelektualitas,
kebijakan politik suatu negara mempengaruhi kondisi dan situasi pendidikan yang ada di sekitarnya. Dengan berubahnya kebijakan, Republik Indonesia ibu kotanya akan berpindah ke Kalimantan atau Borneo, menuntut kita semua, termasuk IAIN Samarinda, untuk berbuat yang terbaik sesuai dengan tuntutan peradaban bangsa. Selamat bergabung dengan IAIN Samarinda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kota ini cukup besar dan padat, memiliki sungai terpanjang dan menggunakan simbol satwa endemik besut. Ialah Kota Samarinda, merupakan pusat pemerintahan ibu kota Kalimantan Timur. Dari masa ke masa, kota ini terus menunjukkan peningkatan, tak hanya di sektor perekonomian, namun juga di sektor pendidikan. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Samarinda merupakan pendidikan tinggi pertama yang mengedepankan pengetahuan agama Islam. Merupakan buah tangan dari beberapa tokoh yang tergabung dalam organisasi Islam. Demi meningkatkan mutu pendidikan, IAIN Samarinda terus melakukan serangkaian kerjasama di bidang pendidikan, baik bertaraf nasional maupun internasional, melalui program kerjasama yang dijalin dengan berbagai lembaga terkait. Sejak berdiri sampai sekarang, Institut Agama Islam Negeri IAIN Samarinda telah mengalami 9 kali periode kepemimpinan. Tokoh-tokoh inilah yang membawa IAIN Samarinda tumbuh dan berkembang dan terus mengalami kemajuan dan peningkatan dari waktu ke waktu. Infrastruktur pendidikan didukung beberapa gedung bertingkat, dilengkapi dengan fasilitas penunjang berupa gedung perpustakaan, laboratorium, dan masjid untuk praktik ilmu agama Islam dengan menerapkan konsep lingkungan hijau.
والقلم وما يسطرون ما
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله رب اشرح لي صدري.
Tidak hanya pada tumbuh kembang fasilitas, namun juga pengembangan pada fakultas dan jurusan seperti Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan, Fakultas Syariah, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam, Fakultas Usuluddin, Adab dan Dakwah, Program Pasca Sarjana atau Magister, Untuk menjamin kualitas pendidikan di tiap fakultas, IAIN Samarinda memiliki lembaga.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli.
Budaya mutu
What I'm very happy to be
demi mewujudkan visi IAIN Samarinda. Sebagai perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam negeri di Kalimantan Timur, IAIN Samarinda selalu mengedepankan pendalaman ilmu agama Islam, namun tidak mengesampingkan ilmu pengetahuan. Penguasaan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Inggris dengan bimbingan dosen yang berpengalaman di taraf nasional maupun internasional agar mereka nantinya mampu meraih prestasi yang membanggakan. Untuk itu, IAIN Samarinda memandang perlu adanya sebuah lembaga yang mampu melaksanakan program unggulan. Maka dibentuklah Ma'had Al-Jami'ah atau pesantren kampus. Dengan diikuti seluruh mahasiswa baru IAIN Samarinda dalam kurun waktu 1 tahun. Terlepas dari itu, puluhan unit kegiatan mahasiswa hadir untuk mengembangkan minat bakat serta potensi mahasiswa.
This event will be our last big event because we will, the next generation.
Sebagai cikal bakal ibu kota negara yang baru, IAIN akan berevolusi menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri dengan meningkatkan fasilitas yang dimiliki, tenaga pengajar, hingga terus mencetak prestasi. IAIN Samarinda bersama pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur terus bekerja sama dalam peningkatan mutu pendidikan melalui berbagai cara. Salah satunya pemberian beasiswa, serta tidak kalah pentingnya, lulusan perguruan tinggi mampu mengisi formasi-formasi pekerjaan, baik di pemerintahan ataupun swasta.
Kebijakan politik suatu negara mempengaruhi kondisi dan situasi pendidikan yang ada di sekitar. Dengan berubahnya kebijakan, Republik Indonesia ibu kotanya akan berpindah ke Kalimantan atau Borneo. Menuntut kita semua, termasuk IAIN Samarinda, untuk berbuat yang terbaik sesuai dengan tuntutan peradaban bangsa. Selamat bergabung dengan IAIN Samarinda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kota ini cukup besar dan padat, memiliki sungai terpanjang dan menggunakan simbol satwa endemik besut. Ialah Kota Samarinda, merupakan pusat pemerintahan ibu kota Kalimantan Timur. Dari masa ke masa, kota ini terus menunjukkan peningkatan, tak hanya di sektor perekonomian, namun juga di sektor pendidikan. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Samarinda merupakan pendidikan tinggi pertama yang mengedepankan pengetahuan agama Islam. Merupakan buah tangan dari beberapa tokoh yang tergabung dalam organisasi Islam. Demi meningkatkan mutu pendidikan, IAIN Samarinda terus melakukan serangkaian kerjasama di bidang pendidikan, baik bertaraf nasional maupun internasional, melalui program kerjasama yang dijalin dengan berbagai lembaga terkait. Sejak berdiri sampai sekarang, Institut Agama Islam Negeri IAIN Samarinda telah mengalami 9 kali periode kepemimpinan. Tokoh-tokoh inilah yang membawa IAIN Samarinda tumbuh dan berkembang dan terus mengalami kemajuan dan peningkatan dari waktu ke waktu. Infrastruktur pendidikan didukung beberapa gedung bertingkat, dilengkapi dengan fasilitas penunjang berupa gedung perpustakaan, laboratorium, dan masjid untuk praktik ilmu agama Islam dengan menerapkan konsep lingkungan hijau.
والقلم وما يسطرون
ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون.
Tidak hanya pada tumbuh kembang fasilitas, namun juga pengembangan pada fakultas dan jurusan seperti Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan, Fakultas Syariah, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam, Fakultas Usuluddin, Adab dan Dakwah, Program Pasca Sarjana atau Magister, Untuk menjamin kualitas pendidikan, di tiap fakultas IAIN Samarinda memiliki lembaga penjamin mutu atau LPM yang menjadi pusat quality assurance dalam menciptakan budaya mutu tridharma perguruan tinggi demi mewujudkan visi IAIN Samarinda. Sebagai perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam negeri di Kalimantan Timur, IAIN Samarinda selalu mengedepankan pendalaman ilmu agama Islam, namun tidak mengesampingkan ilmu pengetahuan, penguasaan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Inggris dengan bimbingan dosen yang berpengalaman di taraf nasional maupun internasional agar mereka nantinya mampu meraih prestasi yang membanggakan. Untuk itu, IAIN Samarinda memandang perlu adanya sebuah lembaga yang mampu melaksanakan program unggulan. Maka dibentuklah Ma'had Al-Jami'ah atau pesantren kampus. Dengan diikuti seluruh mahasiswa baru IAIN Samarinda dalam kurun waktu 1 tahun. Terlepas dari itu, puluhan unit kegiatan mahasiswa hadir untuk mengembangkan minat bakat serta potensi mahasiswa.
Okay. Now, my presentation. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah.
Mahasiswa hadir untuk mengembangkan minat bakat serta potensi mahasiswa.
This event will be our last big event because the next generation.
Sebagai cikal bakal ibu kota negara yang baru, IAIN akan berevolusi menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri dengan meningkatkan fasilitas yang dimiliki, tenaga pengajar, hingga terus mencetak prestasi. IAIN Samarinda bersama pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur terus bekerja sama dalam peningkatan mutu pendidikan melalui berbagai cara. Salah satunya pemberian beasiswa, serta tidak kalah pentingnya, lulusan perguruan tinggi mampu mengisi formasi-formasi pekerjaan, baik di pemerintahan ataupun swasta.
Kebijakan politik suatu negara mempengaruhi kondisi dan situasi pendidikan yang ada di sekitarnya. Dengan berubahnya kebijakan, Republik Indonesia ibu kotanya akan berpindah ke Kalimantan atau Borneo, menuntut kita semua, termasuk IAIN Samarinda, untuk berbuat yang terbaik sesuai dengan tuntutan peradaban bangsa. Selamat bergabung dengan IAIN Samarinda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kota ini cukup besar dan padat, memiliki sungai terpanjang dan menggunakan simbol satwa endemik besur. Ialah Kota Samarinda, merupakan pusat pemerintahan ibu kota Kalimantan Timur. Dari masa ke masa, kota ini terus menunjukkan peningkatan, tak hanya di sektor perekonomian, namun juga di sektor pendidikan. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Samarinda merupakan pendidikan tinggi pertama yang mengedepankan pengetahuan agama Islam. Merupakan buah tangan dari beberapa tokoh yang tergabung dalam organisasi Islam. Demi meningkatkan mutu pendidikan, IAIN Samarinda terus melakukan serangkaian kerjasama di bidang pendidikan, baik bertaraf nasional maupun internasional, melalui program kerjasama yang dijalin dengan berbagai lembaga terkait. Sejak berdiri sampai sekarang, Institut Agama Islam Negeri IAIN Samarinda telah mengalami 9 kali periode kepemimpinan. inilah yang membawa IAIN Samarinda tumbuh dan berkembang dan terus mengalami kemajuan dan peningkatan dari waktu ke waktu. Infrastruktur pendidikan didukung beberapa gedung bertingkat, dilengkapi dengan fasilitas penunjang berupa gedung perpustakaan, laboratorium, dan masjid untuk praktik ilmu agama Islam dengan menerapkan konsep lingkungan hijau.
والقلم وما يسطرون
ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون.
Tidak hanya pada tumbuh kembang fasilitas, namun juga pengembangan pada fakultas dan jurusan seperti Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan, Fakultas Syariah, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam, Fakultas Usuluddin, Adab dan Dakwah, Program Pasca Sarjana atau Magister, Untuk menjamin kualitas pendidikan, di tiap fakultas IAIN Samarinda memiliki lembaga penjamin mutu atau LPM yang menjadi pusat quality assurance dalam menciptakan budaya mutu tridharma perguruan tinggi demi mewujudkan visi IAIN Samarinda. Sebagai perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam negeri di Kalimantan Timur, IAIN Samarinda selalu mengedepankan pendalaman ilmu agama Islam namun tidak mengesampingkan ilmu pengetahuan, penguasaan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Inggris dengan bimbingan dosen yang berpengalaman di taraf nasional maupun internasional agar mereka nantinya mampu meraih prestasi yang membanggakan. Untuk itu, IAIN Samarinda memandang perlu adanya sebuah lembaga yang mampu melaksanakan program unggulan. Maka dibentuklah Ma'had Al-Jami'ah atau pesantren kampus. Dengan diikuti seluruh mahasiswa baru IAIN Samarinda dalam kurun waktu 1 tahun. Terlepas dari itu, puluhan unit kegiatan mahasiswa hadir untuk mengembangkan minat, bakat, serta potensi mahasiswa.
This event will be our last big event because the next generation.
Sebagai cikal bakal ibu kota negara yang baru, IAIN akan berevolusi menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri dengan meningkatkan fasilitas yang dimiliki, tenaga pengajar, hingga terus mencetak prestasi. IAIN Samarinda bersama pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur terus bekerja sama dalam peningkatan mutu pendidikan melalui berbagai cara, Salah satunya pemberian beasiswa, serta tidak kalah pentingnya, lulusan perguruan tinggi mampu mengisi formasi-formasi pekerjaan, baik di pemerintahan ataupun swasta.
Kebijakan politik suatu negara mempengaruhi kondisi dan situasi pendidikan yang ada di sekitarnya. Dengan berubahnya kebijakan, Republik Indonesia ibu kotanya akan berpindah ke Kalimantan atau Borneo, menuntut kita semua, termasuk IAIN Samarinda, untuk berbuat yang terbaik sesuai dengan tuntutan peradaban bangsa. Selamat bergabung dengan IAIN Samarinda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kota ini cukup besar dan padat, memiliki sungai terpanjang dan menggunakan simbol satwa endemik pesut. Ialah Kota Samarinda, merupakan pusat pemerintahan ibu kota Kalimantan Timur. Dari masa ke masa, kota ini terus menunjukkan peningkatan, tak hanya di sektor perekonomian, namun juga di sektor pendidikan. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Samarinda merupakan pendidikan tinggi pertama yang mengedepankan pengetahuan agama Islam. Merupakan buah tangan dari beberapa tokoh yang tergabung dalam organisasi Islam. Demi meningkatkan mutu pendidikan, IAIN Samarinda terus melakukan serangkaian kerjasama di bidang pendidikan, baik bertaraf nasional maupun internasional, melalui program kerjasama yang dijalin dengan berbagai lembaga terkait. Sejak berdiri sampai sekarang, Institut Agama Islam Negeri IAIN Samarinda telah mengalami 9 kali periode kepemimpinan. Tokoh-tokoh inilah yang membawa IAIN Samarinda tumbuh dan berkembang dan terus mengalami kemajuan dan peningkatan dari waktu ke waktu. Infrastruktur pendidikan didukung beberapa gedung bertingkat, dilengkapi dengan fasilitas penunjang berupa gedung perpustakaan, laboratorium, dan masjid untuk praktik ilmu agama Islam dengan menerapkan konsep lingkungan hijau.
والقلم وما يسطرون
ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون.
Tidak hanya pada tumbuh kembang fasilitas, namun juga pengembangan pada fakultas dan jurusan seperti ini. Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan, Fakultas Syariah, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam. Fakultas Usuluddin, Adab dan Dakwah. Program Pasca Sarjana atau Magister. Untuk menjamin kualitas pendidikan, di tiap fakultas IAIN Samarinda memiliki lembaga penjamin mutu atau LPM yang menjadi pusat quality assurance dalam menciptakan budaya mutu tridharma perguruan tinggi demi mewujudkan visi IAIN Samarinda. Sebagai perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam negeri di Kalimantan Timur, IAIN Samarinda selalu mengedepankan pendalaman ilmu agama Islam, namun tidak mengesampingkan ilmu pengetahuan. Penguasaan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Inggris dengan bimbingan dosen yang berpengalaman di taraf nasional maupun internasional agar mereka nantinya mampu meraih prestasi yang membanggakan. Untuk itu, IAIN Samarinda memandang perlu adanya sebuah lembaga yang mampu melaksanakan program unggulan. Maka dibentuklah Ma'had Al-Jami'ah atau pesantren kampus. Dengan diikuti seluruh mahasiswa baru IAIN Samarinda dalam kurun waktu 1 tahun. Terlepas dari itu, puluhan unit kegiatan mahasiswa hadir untuk mengembangkan minat bakat serta potensi mahasiswa.
This event will be our last big event because the next generation.
Sebagai cikal bakal ibu kota negara yang baru, IAIN akan berevolusi menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri dengan meningkatkan fasilitas yang dimiliki, tenaga pengajar, hingga terus mencetak prestasi. IAIN Samarinda bersama pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur terus bekerja sama dalam peningkatan mutu pendidikan melalui berbagai cara. Salah satunya pemberian beasiswa, serta tidak kalah pentingnya, lulusan perguruan tinggi mampu mengisi formasi-formasi pekerjaan, baik di pemerintahan ataupun swasta.
Kebijakan politik suatu negara mempengaruhi kondisi dan situasi pendidikan yang ada di sekitarnya. Dengan perubahan kebijakan, Republik Indonesia ibu kotanya akan berpindah ke Kalimantan atau Borneo. Menuntut kita semua, termasuk IAIN Samarinda, untuk berbuat yang terbaik sesuai dengan tuntutan peradaban bangsa. Selamat bergabung dengan IAIN Samarinda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Check one. Check. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome back to our second session of Virtual International Conference. I am Yunita Nur Azizah. As co-moderator today, will announce you some important information related to this conference. First, participant ID on this virtual international conference must use the real name, not the device or institution one. Second, participants with Zoom access must dress and act modestly during virtual international conference. Third, participants are highly expected to mute the microphone during the virtual international conference. Fourth, all participants attending the virtual international conference through Zoom or YouTube might deliver some question by type question, space, name, institution, and question in braille. The moderator will deliver the question to the presenter, but considering the limited time for discussion, the presenter might be able to answer only some of the questions. Fifth, the attendance form will be shared in the chat box after 30 minutes presentation or in the middle of session, so don't worry about it now. Sixth, the certificate will be available for those who join at least 30 minutes in all sessions from day 1 to day 3, September 16 to 18, 2020 of our virtual international conference. Your cooperation and participation is highly appreciated. Thank you. Stay healthy and keep positive. And I offer to our moderator, Nur Hayati.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Good afternoon from Indonesia. Good morning and good evening to all speakers and participants depending on where you are in this world. Welcome to today's session as a part of the Virtual International Conference 2020, Innovation of Learning in Higher Education in the New Normal COVID-19, held by State Islamic Institute, IAIN, Samarinda, Indonesia. I am Nur Hayati as your moderator today, and it is a great pleasure for me to tell you that the conference today is attended by about 1,000 participants in Zoom and our YouTube channel. We are more grateful that the participants come from about 35 countries: Bulgaria, Bahrain, Bangladesh, China, Egypt, France, Yemen, India, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jordania, Kuwait, Libya, Malaysia, Morocco, Mexico, Montenegro, Mozambique, Nepal, Nigeria, Macedonia, Oman, Pakistan, Palestine, Peru, Philippines, Qatar, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, Sudan, Tunisia, Turkey, and of course, Indonesia. Thank you very much for joining us today. Before we begin the presentation, let me inform you that today's session will be divided into two parts. About 20 minutes for presentation, followed by Q&A session for each speaker. Please write down your questions on the chat box below, along with your name, institution, and country. Just to remind you, the link of the attendance will be available on the chat box and will be open in an hour during this session. Well, without further ado, let me introduce you the first speaker, Dr. K.G. Pargis. Hello, Dr. Pargis. Are you there? Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Okay. Let me inform the participants about you first. Yes. Yeah, okay. Okay, our great first speaker today is Dr. K.G. Verghese, an associate professor of English at Christ College, Irinjala, Puda, and affiliated to the University of Calicut, Kerala, India. He has presented his papers in national and international seminars in many countries around the world. Okay, Dr. K.G. Verghese, about 20 minutes ahead is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the university, the rector, and all the organizers of this wonderful seminar. Especially, the topic is very relevant since it is the educational enhancement of the education in the new normal scenario in the post-COVID situation. And I would be speaking on the use of ICT or the enhancement of education through information and communication technologies in the post-COVID scenario. I'll be addressing all educationalists in a general manner and what would be the education like in the post-COVID scenario, in the new normal scenario, especially with the use of information and communication technology or the latest ICTs. So with that note, I would like to start my sharing of the screen. Hope it's visible now. Hello ma'am, are my screen visible? Is it visible ma'am?
Yeah, we can see it clearly.
Okay. So the audio is okay and the visual is also okay. So I start. So here, to begin with...
Everything is okay.
Okay. So, ICT enhancing education in the post-COVID scenario is my topic for the day. So, as an introducer, I'm Dr. K.G. Verghese from Kerala, India, and good afternoon, everyone. So, when we speak of education, we often find education is the process of learning or acquisition of different skills, values, beliefs, habits, etc. So it's a good education equips us as competent participants on the path of lifelong learning. And a good education goes beyond the accumulation of facts and the acquisition of skills to help us learn how to learn. So it's a good part, it's a part of education, especially to know, or to learn how to learn, so that it is a lifelong learning. A good education is not an end in itself. A good education is but starting point. And we are familiar to all these sayings, and they are quite cliche. But let's see how education can be enhanced using latest technologies during the post-COVID scenario. Because technologies were there, and we were not using them profusely in our teaching learning process because most of our classroom, the learning was in the classroom, and to a certain extent that was face-to-face learning. Now, to a certain extent, and all educational agencies were telling us, were asking us and exhorting us to incorporate ICT, so the latest technologies in our teaching learning scenario. But teachers, to a certain extent, were a bit reluctant. Maybe because most of the teachers are digital immigrants, and whereas our students are digital natives. But even then, so and even in India, all educational agencies, the ministry, and also UGC, which is responsible for the higher education, was trying to do it, but I would say COVID has achieved it. COVID has made this process very quick, And whether you like it or not, now every teacher is using latest technology to reach their students in the pandemic situation. So when we think of the ICT in education, see, education consists mainly of teaching learning process, the assessment process, and of course the professional development, which includes research and extension, and then the administrative process. So here in this slide, I am trying to convey what are the different what you call applications and websites and the latest technologies for use in education for various, in order to meet teaching learning process, assessment, professional development and administration. So when we think of teaching learning process in the new normal scenario, it is at the same time content delivery and creating the content. See, in the case of face-to-face education, when we go to the classroom, we go with the textbooks or charts and different what they call equipment which is needed to teach our students. Okay, of course we use ICTs too in a blended learning scenario. But when we think of a new normal situation, especially when we have to deliver the content, especially we need to create the content and deliver it. So we have a lot of different applications here. Okay, as far as for content delivery is concerned. And this is part of teaching learning process, content delivery and creating the content. You can see on the screen the different applications that we use for content delivery and the different applications that we use for creating the content before it is delivered. Okay, so we have a lot of multimedia is there, then RLO, content. There are a lot of different applications and websites used. Technology is used for this, and for content delivery we have different platforms. Then when we come to assessment, the assessment process, again we have a lot of different applications. Maybe it's like following, so it's enabled with that, or maybe LMS, e-portfolio, then a lot of tools for assessment are also there. So like which tools are, forums are there, then what you call even Google Form is one, then whatever is given on the slide. That is for assessment process. Then for professional development, as teachers, as educators, we need to develop professionally, okay, through research and extension. So we have a lot of, webinar is one, which we are doing now. Then there are a lot of online classes, digital publications, teaching e-portfolio, ICT online groups, e-forums, there are many. Okay, and then we come to administration. If administrators are attending this webinar, I am sure that our office, administration part will be almost already automated. Like the library is automated, the office is automated, and the communication with parents are automated. So, in a way, this slide tells us how this ICTs can be very effectively employed in education at different levels, like learning process, assessment process, professional development process, and administration process. So shown through one slide. But then during the COVID-19 has a lot of educational implications. And to begin with, it gives a lot of challenges to teachers. It's a tremendous challenges to teachers, and I would like to call it, instead of challenges, opportunities and possibilities. Of course, there are challenges, but at the same time, as far as educators are concerned, a lot of opportunities and possibilities are there. The first thing that the educators need to do is to rethink our basic tenets, the basic beliefs, principles of teaching learning process. Okay, our beliefs are there, our principles are there, related to teaching learning process will have to be rethought of. And the second one is to deploy media in creative and productive ways. See, we have the latest ICT technologies and a lot of media now, because the information revolution has given all these, and we have to deploy them in a creative and productive way. And that depends on each individual teacher to restructure education to respond progressively and constructively to the social and technological changes. See, a lot of changes have been introduced as far as technology is concerned. At the same time, in the new normal, a lot of social changes are going to come, and we need to deploy or we need to restructure education in such a way that it caters to the needs of both teachers and stakeholders, students and parents, in a very effective way that teaching learning becomes very normal in the new normal situation. So when we think of the influence of COVID in education, okay, see there are a lot of, in fact, changes that have come across. Now, we have positive and negative, influences. Let's first see the positive outlook. Positive outlook is opening a new venue. Okay, when we think of the influences of COVID on education, a positive outlook is opening new avenues in the field of education. A lot of new avenues have been opened just because of use of technology. So we were used to use these technologies, and now a lot of new avenues have been opened. Paving way for learning new resources. I'm sure with the beginning of COVID, each and every teacher has learned new resources, or at least the resources were there. We have reached or found out those resources. Then giving an opportunity to experience new technology intervention. I'm sure the teachers, educators have not used, in the past, technology in the way that we are using. So we are having use of technology in a kind of unprecedented way in teaching learning process. Okay, so a lot of new technology interventions, a lot of opportunities are now for educators to experience these technology interventions. Another one is enabling learning of new skill sets. I'm sure most of the educators and teachers are now into enabling or equipping us with new skill sets, reinforcing the need for continuous learning. So here, the paradigm, there's a shift in the paradigm, and now we are reinforcing the need of continuous learning, right? Which will be explained later. Then creating a totally new education vertical, a kind of Microsoft term where vertical education is concerned. We are teaching students at different ages, maybe in the same classroom. So vertical education. So these are all positive outlooks. But when we think of negative influences, we have already experienced it, closure of institutions. All colleges and universities are closed now, schools. Then increasing compulsive use of electronic devices. Whether you like it or not, you are forced to use electronic devices for teaching learning process. Effect on general well-being, and we have, we are quite worried about our general well-being of our year ones and our students and other stakeholders. Social disengagement is also there because we are not meeting and socializing with people nowadays. Everything is happening online. Then denial of extracurricular activities, that is another aspect. So education consists of a lot of extracurricular activities. In India, in fact, in our university we have started an online, what they call arts festival. Then exposure and experience is also limited. Teacher-student disconnect always exists nowadays because we are not meeting them every day face-to-face in our classroom. Challenges in sustaining relationships are also there, and creating a sense of insecurity and uncertainty because the pandemic has of course created a sense of insecurity and uncertainty. So these are the negative influences of COVID, but let's see the positive influences are so many as far as educators are concerned. And then, naturally, I'm sure that now you are in the teaching learning process, and there are a lot of reasons for student disengagement. So here in this slide, I would like to discuss student perception and reasons for disengagement. Number one is, as it is said, ineffectiveness of virtual learning. We think that ineffectiveness of virtual classrooms and learning outcomes. At least that is just because of the mindset. The students have a teacher-taught mindset, and some say these virtual classrooms are not that effective. And teachers also share the same feeling that the teaching learning process is not really happening in the virtual classroom. And we are also worried about the learning outcome. So that is one. This is one reason for disengagement. Another is student-teacher, what is called a taught mindset. Because we teachers and students think that teaching learning process can take place in the classroom. Then of course there is an absence of community feeling and class atmosphere that is also lost. Okay, since we are not meeting in our classrooms, absence of community feeling and class atmosphere is there. Then there is sense of isolation. Okay, so there is, the sense of isolation is also there because we are all disconnected. And another very important problem that students and both teachers face are unconducive home environment. So home, other teaching learning process has never taken place with this magnitude in our home. Okay, so naturally, some homes, let me tell you, are quite unconducive for this, to provide an environment for teaching learning process. Then of course there are a lot of challenges of technical and technological glitches like bandwidth problem is there, laptop desktop capability problem is there, inadequacy of resources. Okay, there is what you call digital divide. There are digital haves and digital have-nots. Then requirement of more than one laptop, of course, because when students, two or three students or children are learning, when teachers are, and the parents tell teachers now, suppose you need to have more than 2 or 3 laptops or mobile phones. Weather plays a very important role nowadays because of bandwidth and connectivity issues. Then power situation also is very important. Okay, so these are the challenges that we have to face. Then of course there is lack of individual attention often we say, because as we the socializing part of it. Okay, social emotional part of it is often lost. Teacher learner responsiveness. It's also limited. Computer fatigue, that is something very important. Then content conflict. When students get content one after another, especially on screen, there is every chance for this what you call content conflict. So naturally these are the problems first. So don't get worried when people say that there is a lot of disengagement. These are the main reasons. And how can we meet? How can we meet or avoid these kind of what you call how to address the student concerns? Number one is to prepare students for the change they will undergo by induction program. We are doing that in India. Even in my university, my college, we are having induction program for both students and teachers to prepare them for the new normal situation, which may last till the vaccine is invented or till the curve is flattened. It takes time. Do not force, compel or pressurize by overloading academic sessions. That is also important. So let's not pressurize students or teachers, both ways, the overloading of academic sessions. We need to readjust the pace of teaching, the pace of the space or the speed of teaching has to be readjusted. Create student familiarity by facilitating face-to-face online ice-breaking interactions. Now then we need to have, in order to what you call, take into consideration the social and emotional side of learning, we need to have what you call face-to-face online ice-breaking interactions. And it will be shortened class duration. Okay, the class which we used to give for 1 hour can be reduced to half. Still, I think the deadlines can be met. Give extended breaks in between, very important. Otherwise, the students will have content conflict and also the computer fatigue. Another one, clear inhibitions and anxiety. Create small group mentorship sessions. This works a lot. We have done it. Small group mentorship sessions which help students and of course the teachers too to be in touch with each other. Okay, the emotional side of it. Use of social media like WhatsApp for informal interaction offline with faculty. That helps. Enhance faculty role in classroom from fire and forget as a guided mentor. This is a very important point. Till now what we are doing, especially in the face-to-face classroom, often we say fire and forget, but into guide and mentor. That change should be effected in the new normal situation for what they call getting maximum benefit for teaching learning process. So when we discuss the impact of ICT, so the latest technologies in teaching learning process, we will have to change the way teachers teach and we will have to change the way the students learn. So there is in fact introduction of ICT will bring about change in the way teachers teach and the way students learn. And we need to know the teacher's role, what they call in our teaching learning process. What exactly is our role? What should be the role of students in the new normal scenario? And there will be a shift from knowledge transmitters. In the face-to-face classroom, the teachers were knowledge transmitters and the primary sources of information. From the knowledge transmitter, the teacher is a shift from knowledge transmitter to a learning facilitator. So the educators or the teachers become learning facilitators, they become collaborators, coaches, knowledge navigator, and a co-learner. Hope I'm clear when I say, see, a learning facilitator, a collaborator. We need to collaborate with other teachers in our teaching endeavors. We need to be a coach. See, the difference between a teacher and a coach would be a teacher will always dwell on the thinking domain, on the cognitive domain. Whereas a coach will take into consideration not only the thinking domain, but also, cognitive domain, but also the psychomotor domain and also the affective domain. A coach, is the role shift of the teacher. And as far as students are concerned, teacher controlling and directing all aspects of learning. Usually most of our classrooms are teacher-centered. Okay, so there should be a shift from that. Everything is controlled by teacher. But in the new normal situation, especially in online and blended learning, teacher is giving students more options and responsibilities for their own learning. Lot of options and responsibilities are shifted to students. So students need to be, in a way, self-directed, self-regulated, and self-motivated students. Okay, in the new normal situations, we pick up, with the classes as, different from what they were doing in the face-to-face classroom in a very disciplined manner. Okay, so this shift is there. And then, so this would be the paradigm shift, which is, yes, paradigm shift that we'll be talking about. Hear me? Okay, okay. Some other cross conversation. So paradigm shift. Here what happens is, this is the shift. See the learner, you can see on the screen, see the instructor is just one source of information. And it is the duty of the instructor to allow students or introduce students with all these different sources of information. Okay, the instructor should be in a position to introduce students to all these different sources of information so that, okay, learning becomes anytime, anyway. And they get introduced to different sources of information. So it's the duty of the teacher to monitor everything. But teachers can never be replaced, let me tell you. Even in the new normal scenario, however technology will be used, maybe AR, augmented reality, or even the latest, what you call artificial intelligence. But let me tell you, teacher will be there. Teacher is a very important factor, and teachers can never be replaced. But when we want the teachers who are not equipped, teachers can never be replaced by the latest technologies, but teachers who don't know technology may be replaced by teachers who know technology. That's the only difference. Okay, and another situation in the new normal scenario is when we think in relation to, when we discuss it in relation to Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive domains, we will see. See what was happening now face-to-face traditional classroom. It's often a kind of lower levels of cognitive levels are met with. That is remembering and understanding in the classroom, because we used to give classes from the moment that we enter the class till the end. And we make them, we help them to remember and understand things. But often applying, analyzing, evaluating and creating. The higher order cognitive, levels were not often met in the classroom because we are busy making them remember and understand, because that is important for the examination. So it happened in the classroom, and the others were supposed to happen outside the classroom, but sometimes it never happened. But in the new normal situation, especially in the flipped classroom, okay, because of social distancing, because of the COVID protocols, it's not easy for the students to attend classes as they attended previous years. They may be attending our classes in shifts. Okay, maybe 33. We have already taken a decision in India, at least in our state, that 3 to 40% of students at a time. So which means the same class will have many shifts. So it is impossible for the teachers to teach the same thing in the same class thrice or 4 times. So what we can do is, we can go online, out of the classroom, we can give the, online, what was happening in the classroom will be, and remembering and understanding will be done, okay, outside the classroom, whereas inside the classroom, whenever they visit us, maybe twice or thrice in a week, we'll be engaging them in applying what they've learned, analyzing it, evaluating it, and creating it. Maybe putting what they've learned in the new forms, that is creation. So here, So this is total change. It's reverse. Okay, out of the classroom, maybe the online method, we'll be teaching them how to remember, helping them to remember and understand. And whenever they come to our colleges, when they meet them, maybe not as frequent as we have been meeting, 5 days a week, maybe 1 or 2 days a week. There, we can use the time in helping them to develop the higher cognitive levels of what we have taught, like applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. This is the basic theory of flipped classrooms, okay, which will be very effectively used in the blended learning scenario. Now what happens is, see, in the case of...
Yes, ma'am, Dr. Fargis.
Yes, how many minutes more, ma'am? Almost over? I'll just wipe. Okay, so here, see, it doesn't mean that by the time we go back to the new normal, maybe after the pandemic, the lockdown, we need to acquire the skill set for 21st century, build a new paradigm, and web access. We have to engage in creative publishing, information management, and we have to use the thinking pedagogy, and the learning environment would be like that. Okay, but when we think of, we should return home with all this activity. But let me tell you, it doesn't matter how many resources we have. If you don't know how to use them, it will be something that is not the question of a number of resources that you have, but we should know how to use them effectively. Otherwise, we never use it. Now, we'll be hunting for new resources, but let's stop that and let's get what we call, in a way, introduce or how to use them effectively. That would be more effective. Otherwise, the use of technology in the classroom is not a skill set, it is a mindset. The mindset. So the mindset of the teachers and students will have to change. So if the mindset, though the teachers are digital immigrants and students are digital natives, the change should happen to the mindset. So it is not either the hardware or the software, it is a human ware that matters. The human ware in the sense, the individual teacher's ability to plan, design classes, around available technologies, with the available technologies and the pedagogical uses of technology. So it's mindset. And before maybe the last slide, before I wind up, see it's better to reflect who we have become during COVID-19. Let me tell you, 50% is still afraid. 50% is afraid. They are grabbing toilet papers and hiding, okay, which we have seen in the European countries, and often complain about having to sit on your own. Complaining, a lot of complaining and grumbling that we cannot go out of the house, and often complaining that it is not over yet, and sleep maybe until 12 to 14 hours. That is the 50%. But 40% have enjoyed the, what they call learning things, where use the time to learn new things, as we are doing now. Okay, attending webinars, attending online courses, and then find ways to stay productive. Some are into publishing, some are into writing books, okay, we do webinars, etc. Finally, then give up what we cannot control till the vaccine is invented or till the curve is flattened, because it's not under our control. So just give up that, take action with your extra time, live in the present, not in the future, don't worry about future, and work hard. That's what 40% are doing, working hard. But see, the other 10% have reached the growth phase. And what is the growth phase? Every one of us should reach the growth phase. Plant seed for something amazing. That's what. Identify this time as potentially life-altering and work for that. Use the time to build something that will have value for the rest of our life. Become mentally tough. Become great at time management. Develop major skill sets. Use this and change your life and work smart. From working hard to work smart. So we need to work smart. Only 10% are doing that and getting benefits for the institution, for the university, for the students, and for education in general. So wishing everyone to work smart and with latest technologies are up. So everyone should work smart. So thank you very much, and wishing everyone smart teaching and smart learning. I conclude. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. KG Fargis. Very interesting topic related to ICT in enhancing education in the post-COVID scenario. Yes.
Okay, thank
Many
you.
questions pop up in the chat box in Zoom and also on comment box in our YouTube channel. Let me pick up one of them. From Harvanshi Verma, Srimata Vaishyo Devi University, India. Okay. The question is, there are many people who cannot afford latest mode of education. They don't have laptop, internet access, mobile phone, most important for poor people. So what are the options for them? How will this kind of students learn in this pandemic situation?
Okay, that's a very good question, and it was a question which was asked many a time, but we need to do it with whatever we have, with available technology. Not only that, I think the question is from India. In India, we are proposing to a kind of what they call giving classes to TV channels. Okay, TV channels is one way of reaching our students, and some of us are using EduSat too. So these are some of the ways, and of course we can also use logic like WhatsApp. If they don't have laptop, WhatsApp can be used for asynchronous learning. There is synchronous and asynchronous learning. So what we can do in a way is to use this kind of what you call logic tools to reach them. That's the only way out nowadays. Okay, use whatever is available and whatever technology is available in a creative way. Okay, that's it. Yes.
Okay, so we can say many ways to learn, right? Okay. And it's really related to our topic today. One more question from Dr. Haruna Abubakar Haruna, Nigeria. As education officer under the Ministry of Education, rules and regulation for educational policy in the state. Which role should I play to normalize schools' curriculum and the students to adapt with online teaching?
Okay, could you just repeat the question, ma'am? Could you just repeat the question?
Okay. Yeah.
Taking latest technologies. Now we have most of them are what you call in a way. So what as an educational officer, what you can do is, in a way, to promote these latest technologies into teaching learning process. To promote these latest technologies into teaching learning process, the ICTs, and also flipped classrooms, blended teaching learning, even in the new normal scenario, the blended teaching learning will be the no. That's what I understand. Because now teachers are quite good at it. Teachers have experienced it. Students have also experienced it. So in a way, as an educational officer, he should be introducing this kind of blended learning and these different platforms, and should exhort teachers to use it profusely so that they'll stay for lifelong learning process. That's what as an educational officer, she can work a lot in order to make students and teachers, and there should be a policy change too. And they can work on policy in introducing the latest technologies into the education, and how they can enhance teaching learning process. Of course, keeping on the other side the social emotional side of the learning, which should be promoted in the face-to-face classes. So I would recommend a kind of blended learning in the new normal scenario. It will be very effective, and since our students are digital natives. Yes, ma'am.
Interesting topic with a very fantastic answers from Mr. Verghese. We still have one more question from Dewi Setriyanti, Jakarta. How to deal with parents who always have their children learn online? It makes students less their responsibility. And what about adult advertisement that appears during online learning using handphone or laptop?
Okay. So parents will have to play a very important role. That's what I understand. The parents will have to play a very important role as far as teaching learning process is concerned, which they have never played before. Okay, especially that of younger students in the schools. So what they can do is they can monitor the students and help the student, and in a way a conducive home environment for create a conducive congenial home of environment for teaching learning process. I have mentioned in my presentation sometimes it is not there. So what parents can provide are the gadgets depending on the availability and their resources, and also provide them with a conducive home environment where teaching learning can take place in a normal situation at home. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. K. Verghese. We actually have many questions for you, but unfortunately we have a very limited time today. So we hope that you can send us your slide to our email.
Thank you.
Let's give big applause to Dr. Verghese. Thank you very much.
Namaste.
Namaste. Okay, now let's move on to the second speaker. Dr. Muhammad Mujtaba Asad. Hello, Dr. Asad.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, let me introduce Dr. Muhammad Mujtaba Asad. He is the assistant professor and head of educational technology, as well as the TVET research at Syukur IDA University, Houston. He has also received several awards in international research and development completion in many countries. Without talking further, Dr. Muhammad Mujtaba Asad, the precious 20 minutes ahead is yours.
Thank you very much, the moderator and the organizers of Virtual International Conference, IAIN Samarinda in Indonesia. So the topic, what you have selected is very needful, innovation of learning in higher education in the new normal. So my speech title is also much relevant with that currently we are struggling and everyone is focusing about it, how we will work in educational settings, in teaching and learning processes, in institutions, specifically in post-COVID situation when most of our things are not that much aligned previously, but several things are now in smooth way. So in post-COVID, how it can move further. So the topic which I have selected for my speech is digital innovation, educational change, like because we have to realize that now that will be a new phase for our teaching and learning. Either the schools, colleges, universities are open. So the challenges and mitigating strategies of post-COVID teaching and learning is a topic for my today's speech. Further, the next part which we are focusing currently related to that is that COVID-19 in previous like when it started, and the education institutions are also affected. The education sector is also affected, but similarly, we also the countries have to face socio-economical issues as well. Like globally, it was a challenge for all of us, especially if we talk about those nations. They are not that much developed or underdeveloping countries. So there was an issue for them to help their citizens, to provide them all the necessary needs and everything. But also in education sector, the students were, most of the time, they were affected. So in that particular pandemic scenario, according to UNESCO, because of the outbreak of COVID-19, when it started in our country in early March. So education institutions in 192 countries were affected and closed. So 91.4% of the total enrollment in those countries were temporarily out of schools. And also some of the school, like, because the challenge which all of us in education, as educationists, as a pedagogue, we have faced that most of our working like staff, faculty members, teachers, they were not that much competent in terms of digital skills, because that was the skill which was required and needed for running the online class, to manage everything, LMS, Zoom, and etc. All the digital platforms from where we can deliver our lectures. So today, in this post-COVID situation, still we have so many challenges. So according to the recent research which one of our group members in our research center have conducted, so the thing which we have identified in our research as well, that changing society in through education and counseling is required in COVID situation, because we need so much competencies and skills in terms of normalizing the situation. Like the counselors and the particular kind of specific experts are required to help us in reconstruction or realignment of our strategies, pedagogies, as per the need of this post-COVID situation. So that can help us to realize and accept this change, that this is the reality, that now we have to accept this, that now the education system and all our other socio-economic issues will be like side by side with this COVID-19. So now the things are a little bit normalized. School, colleges, and universities in a few countries, also in our country, now from last 2-3 days, they have started a face-to-face classroom with some SOPs and all the safety measures and regulations we need to follow for teaching and learning. So that was a challenge also for educators as well, and also for students, because they are also a bit worried and confused about about the COVID-19, the transmission of it. So reduce the weaknesses within our education system, because it's a sudden shift. Previously, most of the, we can say that educationists and pedagogues, they don't have experience of shifting towards like face-to-face classroom towards digital classroom or online classroom. So that was the challenge. So we need to work on our digital skills to reduce those weaknesses which we are facing due to this sudden shift. So integration of technology, as we know that we have to be ready for that, and we must have to prepare ourselves. Our curriculum aligned with as per the digital curriculum, and all the pedagogical approaches and skills must be aligned, because it can be possible that in future, after some time, the things can become bit severe or difficult, and further we again have to shift towards the online mode. So that is what I think most of our countries are experiencing. Also, Indonesia, I think, they are also experiencing the same thing. So the integration of technology in our virtual classrooms, as per the demand of this post-COVID situation. So need to look at innovation ways of teaching in COVID. Because previously there were several subjects such as like the social sciences subjects, religious, like for example, you can have history, geography, and such courses and subjects. So those teachers, they were teaching social sciences subjects. They were not that much digitally literate. So for those like engineering teachers or computer science teachers, sciences teachers are quite familiar with those skills. So we also had worked on those, and still we are working on those teachers to develop their digital competencies. Specifically, those they were not that much digitally literate, so try to promote such a way of teaching in which they can use the digital tools. So that was also one of the challenge, or that was the need of this shift. And I would like to quote here the George Brendan Shaw's try to relate and align with this situation of post-COVID, that progress is impossible without a transition and change. And those who cannot change themselves cannot change anything. So we have to accept it as a challenge. We have to accept this post-COVID teaching and learning as a teacher, as a pedagogue, as a challenge, and come up with those innovative strategies and teaching and learning approaches in which we can maintain the SOPs and have social distancing and other all things which we need to follow during COVID-19. So then we can also perform our duties and deliver the knowledge which is required and we have to deliver to our students. So as the transition of digitalization in education in post-COVID is one of the major scenarios which we are currently, all of us in different settings, in different in countries, we are still struggling. Most of the teachers are now they are skilled. They have also developed some frameworks. The countries, the institutions, they have their own personal institutional frameworks, and also they have developed the national frameworks for teaching digitally to the students. To minimize this particular issue of digitalization and shift towards during this COVID situation, like most of the countries integrated the digitalization of learning with the merger of distance teaching and learning, opposite to face-to-face classrooms. Because if we can say that those institutions, they were already have the distance learning programs in the institution, higher education settings, they already had a specific framework for teaching through that particular way of this, because they also have the distance learning courses and subjects. So for those, it was we can say that it was easier for them, that the process was smooth for them because they already had the mechanism. But those were the faculties, or those they have to struggle, but they were not have such kind of programs they were offering. So they develop themselves and they cope up with all the weaknesses. And I think now most of those universities, colleges, and schools, they have now the second, we can say, the plan for teaching and learning. Like if the situation become a little bit worse, or having some pandemic situation become worse and lockdown situations, so they can keep with the online teaching and learning. So digitalization of learning is emerging, because if we talk about digitalization of learning, previously it was not that much the area of concern previously, before COVID, because people were taking as a choice, as if they want to study that part, like education technology is one of the area of specialization in different fields. So those they want to in pedagogy, they want to integrate digital skills and digital knowledge. So they specifically they go for that particular course. But now it's a need for everyone. Now it's a need for all the teachers, pedagogues. They are teaching in the higher education institution, or in school and colleges. So this concept is a field of education comfortable and accepted during this COVID situation. And post-COVID, now people now realize that these skills are necessary for all the teachers, and they must have to know that how they can teach through online platforms, virtual during this COVID-19 and after this situation. They must have to be realized that this is one of the skills which is required for all the teachers. Okay, so the challenges which online community is still facing in this post-COVID situation, like the major aspect that which has been essential challenge for, as I indicated, that in the community, that because they were not ready in our education institutions, because some parents, I also heard the question which has been asked from our previous speaker, that the parents, how they were coping up with this digital use, digital with online classes, or digital skills or competencies or tools which their children they are using. So specifically, if we talk about that, so in that case, we also had a big challenge to like to counsel those parents and accept this kind of you can say the reality that now the teaching and learning will be also there is another mode for that, not just a face-to-face or traditional way. So I think most of the parents now accept it, and I also get some feedback from the parents that they are comfortable in that because they keep their children in front of them and provide them the computers and all the digital tools. They can monitor them. So and also they feel comfortable that their children are safe at home. Because during this COVID, there was also a psychological anxiety among the community and also the parents because their children were they worried about their children during this COVID-19. So the thing which educationists faced, it was because this was a sudden shift, so they were not ready. If we talk about our digital courseware, that was not ready, and we need to train our teachers, and still we are doing that. We need to train our teachers and teach them that how they can transform their course outlines, their weekly plans, their contents into digital form and upload it to learning management systems. So now the people, especially in education institution, I think here we can indicate that the leadership role, because the leader of the institution or the management of the institution, they now focus for that. That is very good, and somehow we can say that it's also a revolution, because now they are promoting for the capacity building or the professional development part of their totality, their staff. So now this is the merger, because it was a sudden shift and that was not ready. That was a challenge for them, but people they cope up with that, most of them. So another challenge which international educators has faced, that the digital competencies and skills due to sudden shift, because okay, if we have all the material digitally aligned and everything is there, but we also need some kind of digital skill. Like for example, if we are taking online classes, if we are providing them lectures or material or data to the students, so if the teacher will stuck somewhere or somewhere he will unable to connect back to the class because of the lack of digital literacy or skills, so then it will be difficult for him to make or to deliver the lecture smoothly. So for that reason, that was a challenge among most of the teachers, because they were previously they were not digitally literate. So that was the issue for them, and still some of them have this issue and they are facing this challenge. And now their coping strategies are also developed to help those teachers. And I think institutions have also developed such kind of mechanism for them to support them. They develop a support system within the institutions to support those faculty members. They are weaker. They have an issue of digital skills. So they provide them trainings. They train them according to the required skills, so they can easily deliver their lectures through online modes. So that was one of the issues. Another, that the similar challenge, like students from remote locality. We have to accept this, and I think in this way, when the colleges and schools are moving towards the normal, they are moving towards the normal situation, like face-to-face classroom with following the SOPs. So this is we can say that beneficial for those students. They are living in the remote areas where the 4G and 3G signals are not available all the time. They have to move, I think 4, 5, 6 kilometers from their hometown, and then they find out some signals and they can join the class. So it was difficult for those students. They were facing this issue, this challenge. So now we can say that this will help those students. They are from remote areas or the localities where they cannot access the internet, because internet is, as we know, that for online class, especially for synchronous mode delivery of lecture, that we need a strong connection of internet. So that was one of the challenge also for the teachers, because some of the teachers, they were also living in the remote area. So they also have to manage those all requirements which are required for online classes accordingly. They also have to travel and manage the all the digital application and other things which are required. So moreover, this pandemic situation also help like what we are currently doing. We are connected from all over the world, from different countries, and sharing the knowledge, sharing our thoughts. with the online community. So I think that is also one of the benefit of COVID-19, because conference organizers, they can also save a lot of money because of this, because otherwise they have to pay extra amount to the speakers, to the audience, and now the things have become more easier for them. And I think this is also very good, because now we have conferences handy, webinars. So we can easily watch all the previously conducted webinars available on YouTube, and we can also join and ask the questions. All the experts are available to us. So I think this is also the opportunity which COVID-19 gave us, along with the challenges. So currently we are also doing that, the collaborative learning, engagement, and motivation, peer assistance learning, and direct self-directed learning. Some of the students, like those, they provide them material, and they use to search, use all their learning domains, and the critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creativity. So they integrate all four C's of 21st century education through this change. So after that, if we can say that the agenda of Education 4.0, because Education 4.0 is retrieved from Industry Revolution 4.0. So in that way, we can say that Education 4.0 is somehow we are integrating through this sudden shift, because we have to align our curriculum based on the needs. So most of our, I think if we talk about engineering curriculum, social sciences curriculum, or teachers' education curriculum, all the curriculums are now have one of the fundamental element they integrated, because there was a revision and reconstruction of curriculum. So in that, they focus for the integration of technological knowledge, technological skills. So I think the agenda of Education 4.0, because we need to upskill our curriculum as per the need of 21st century, and also the fourth industrial revolution needs. So we now align our curriculum as per that. Somehow, not all the measures we took, but we add some kind of essence of IF 4.0 or Education 4.0 needs in the curriculum somehow in all disciplines most of the time. Okay, so as I said, that we cannot just blame, or we cannot just criticize it to negatively, and consider as also the opportunity, because yes, there are so many people, they are affected due to COVID-19, and still the things are not that much normal. But COVID-19 also provides us opportunities for collaboration as well, for research, because those teachers, they were not previously focusing towards their professional development. Now they are taking online courses, they're attending online courses, they are working on their self-development. Most of the teachers previously busy in their teaching and learning all the time, so now they have some time to spend with their families, and also to work or construct new research articles. They work on their research projects. In that time, they can easily manage, because they can reduce the time for traveling and the other things. So digital learning will facilitate educators to access online and learning materials, interact with each other through digital platforms. That's what we are doing currently, and it can support their all the things that which are required in our in the profession of education. So the approach, which we can say that it can be help us if we can integrate. I also heard from our previous speaker, I second that what he said, that blended learning approach, we need to integrate in our teaching and learning in this post-COVID situation. Either it's a higher education setting, or either it's a school, or other lower education settings. We have to focus on the blended learning approach to mix face-to-face and online learning. So the students will not feel discomfortable or something when they will switch towards totally online learning. So now we can make it more successful by putting the approach of blended learning in our teaching and learning process. So it will help us that we can set or develop our curriculum and content accordingly. Like we combine with online something which is online, or we can teach through online approaches, and then in the class we can ask students to discuss those things, and then it can be more successful and fruitful in terms of maintaining each and everything, and also the learning process will keep going. So it's also because sometimes we have to develop such you can say the mindset, or we have to train our students as well to accept this. So another one approach, which is the flipped classroom, that is also a bit similar with that face-to-face, and we can say that the lectures in the classroom, within classroom activities, and after that we can discuss with our teachers. So like in this situation, we can make a groups of teachers or students, they can explore, or they can focusing for specific issues and problems, and then the students can come back with the teacher and they can discuss in the class, in the groups, or with their peers, and then the role of the teacher will be more as a facilitator. So he will help them in terms of maintaining the process of flipped classroom, the approach which we can integrate by using digital technologies and the face-to-face interaction between student and teacher. So VR and AR is also giving us a wonderful flavor towards, especially for the experiential learning, vestibular learners, that they are teaching, they are learning through, like for example, science students or engineering students, that they need to understand or learn the things by experiencing it, because it was a challenge for previously, it was a challenge for students. Those they have to attend the labs, they have to conduct experiments, but those they will have like, for example, the social sciences students, they mostly focus on the reading materials, not that much you can say calculations, experimental, hands-on was involved. But for those that they have to, like for example, we're talking about science students, chemistry students, bio students, physics students. So for them, we can generate or develop such we can like applications based on the virtual reality or augmented reality, so they can experience the things by looking at them, and they can perform the procedure and processes. So I think now in educational technology, most of our educationists, the education and technologists are working together to develop such modules, e-modules or training modules, and they are teaching students through such simulated or animated applications, and also the gamification. Gamification is also putting another there are some ongoing research projects which we are conducting through my research center. So that integration and practices and challenges of blended learning in pandemic situation of COVID-19 higher education institutions. Our research center is also doing
Dr. Rasa?
Yes, just it's about to finish. Thank you. So that's all, and thank you very much. You can ask any question if you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Anson. Very wonderful knowledge. And also we have wonderful questions from the participants. The first question from Ina, Indonesia. What language teachers should do to create necessary strategy so they can deliver knowledge correctly?
Yes, very good question. And I think for language teachers, linguistic teachers, that is also a challenge for them, because what we had also experienced that that was issue for them to come up with those strategies. But I think for language teacher, there are several approaches which they can integrate. Like for example, what we have just now discussed about blended learning approach. So they can provide them such teaching material or learning material in the form of videos, in the form of audios, and after that they can ask their students to develop such projects in the form of videos or something. They can record that and they can share with their teachers, and teacher can assess those videos based on the certain rubrics which he or she can develop for assessment, and later on they can also ask the students to come to the class and present. So they can help them, they can develop their skills through online teaching, synchronous mode or asynchronous mode, by providing them all the digital material, share that material with them, and later on in the class they can ask them to present that knowledge which to endorse or to check that either they understand or not. So that can be one of the effective option or approach for teaching linguistics to the students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ansat. One more question from Hajriana, Indonesia. It's related to your opinion. There are many problems in online learning, especially to evaluate of learning process in social subjects. For example, religion education, because we must do an evaluation for affective and psychomotoric aspects. What do you think?
Yes, you are right that because when we are assessing students' psychomotor skill or affective skills, values, and their morals and religious belief. But at the same note, because I think it is challenging in terms of that, because when we are teaching the students some kind of practices, like if we talk about religious activities like prayers, like namaz, and like some religious things, prayers or something, the activity in the form of activities. So it can be challenging for that part, but for developing their beliefs or providing that knowledge of that particular religion. So in that context, I think we can help them to synchronous approach. Like we can open for question answer session, and it can be one of the good strategy. Then we cannot take 40, 50 students together. We can make a group of students, like 5 students or 6 students, and we can divide the time. And then we can teach them thoroughly to synchronous mode. And then if we are applying or integrating blended learning approach or flipped classroom approach, so then we can confirm or ensure their learning through that. And I think assessment is one of the biggest challenges that we have also observed during this whole time period or this process, that assessment was considered as one of the challenges. But in somehow, for the assessment, because we need to ensure learning, assessment, that there will be an assessment of learning, not assessment for learning. So assessment of learning can be done through that way, that we can ask the students to come to the class and they can have any query and questions. We can discuss with the teacher to blended learning approach. Thank you.
That's very wonderful knowledge. Very much appreciation to Dr. Mujtabat Asad. Big applause, please.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again in our next event. Stay safe. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Okay. The next wonderful speaker is Dr. Abdel Kader Makhluk. Oh, excuse me. The next wonderful speaker is Dr. Amir Abbas, the Director of Quality Enhancement Cell, QEC, at the University of South Asia, Lahore, Pakistan. He is also a teacher and researcher who has trained thousands of students and corporate professionals in the last 10 years. Hello, Dr. Abbas.
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
The precious 20 minutes ahead is yours.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I warmly acknowledge the warmth of the organizers of this international conference, and I'm happy to contribute with respect to my presentation. Let me just share my screen with you. Is it visible to all of you?
It's visible to all of us.
So, the title of my today's presentation is Quality in Higher Education, A Way Forward. I am representing University of South Asia, Lahore, Pakistan. I am working as Director Quality Enhancement Cell over there. And this topic is very close to my heart, quality in higher education, a way forward. So this is the outline of my presentation. I will be discussing some emerging trends, the quality in higher education institutions, the drivers of internal quality assurance, and international quality standards. In today's contemporary era, quality is basically the most prominent lever, driver of success, in my humble opinion. Because quality is a journey with no ends. It talks about continuous improvement. It talks about continuous improvement in all that we do in education. And more importantly, if we consider the important stakeholder, that is students, the employability of students, so quality is the main force, the driver that needs to be considered, that needs to be related with all other matters of university governance, and we need to exercise the best practices. So quality assurance is basically, QA is for enhancement. Enhancement of everything. Enhancement of teaching quality, enhancement of students' employability, enhancement of students' skills development, enhancement of university reputation, enhancement of university standing with respect to its competitors. So we are talking about a 360-degree transformational approach when we are talking about quality. So quality is the most important area nowadays in this modern world in educational sector. It's not only about the documentation. Yes, documentation is the one aspect, but it can be applied on each and every facet of the university, of the higher education institution. So nowadays, a greater emphasis on internal quality assurance and the encouragement of institutional quality culture is being emphasized. We are talking about the performance of the university, the performance of the institution, as the overall performance of that entity which they are delivering. What they are delivering, what they are promising, the performance will be evaluated on the benchmarks of quality. So quality is the major force, it's the major driver. Also, greater use of explicit statements of requirements. Nowadays we are talking about the qualification frameworks, the subject benchmarks. In Pakistan, the country which I am representing, we have Pakistan Qualification Framework, Pakistan Qualification Register. We have different benchmarks. So we all are learning from each other. We all are learning and we all are trying to grasp the knowledge so that we can enhance our acumen, we can enhance our knowledge, we can enhance our resolve to perform better. And we can deliver the best value of money to the students. Because there is a notion that quality worldwide in educational system is on deterioration. So the role of a university in order to maintain the quality standards is important nowadays, because if we want to give the better value of money to the students, quality will play a major role. Another emerging trend, set of emerging trends. Now we are talking about the greater focus on outputs. This era, this age is the age of education where we are talking about outcome-based education models, OBE. Now, OBE is the future of education, where you are not imparting knowledge just for the sake of knowledge, just for the sake of completing the degree, academic degree. You are talking about the skill development of your student. And if skills development of student is not on your prime agenda, then you are lagging behind in the competition. So each and every aspect should be documented in the process form approach, where you will record students' progression, students' achievements, and student learning in a methodological manner, so that each and everything should be documented. And the final product, that is the skills of a student, can be appreciated, can be recognized, these should be visible. So that is the important emphasis nowadays. So the direct is what a student has learned. So we are focusing on, we should focus on, instead we should focus on outcome-based education. If these models are missing in our educational system, then something very important is missing, and we need to revisit our strategy with respect to the educational system, especially in higher education. And indirect is where our graduate has gone. We should also take care of the placement. We should also take care of the employability of students. If our students are better employed at good places, in good organizations, these will ultimately enhance the reputation of the university, of the educational institution. Nowadays, we are also talking about the element of internationalization in higher education. So the national boundaries are no more existent and prevalent. Hard or soft, or it is hard or harder, in some countries, increasing government involvement. So if we want to see our educational system prosperous, then the role of government is of pivotal nature. The government should encourage, the government should facilitate the higher education institutions, all seats of higher learning, so that they should be motivated and they should come out with ways, differentiated ways, unique ways of delivering knowledge, skills in the students, so that a better outcome, better product from universities should come out. So these are some standards and guidelines for internal quality assurance. Most of the quality assurance agencies, especially in European countries, are focusing on these 10 principles. And in my humble opinion, we need to inculcate these policy guidelines in our systems as well. Number one, we should have a policy for quality assurance, an explicit policy of quality assurance. That should be there. Then we should have a mechanism of designing and approval of programs. Each and every degree program should be designed, should be approved in a manner that should conform to the requirements of international standards, because internationalization is a buzzword today. Then, student-centered learning, teaching and assessment. In a modern world, all efforts, all endeavors related to education should be student-centered. Whether we are talking about the learning of the students, we are talking about the teaching by the instructors and the assessment systems, each and every thing should be student-centered. Teaching, assessment, learning, all these things should be student-centered. And we have a foolproof system of student admissions, the student progression, recognition of their achievements, and certification. If any element out of these four is missing, it means we are not conforming to the international standards with respect to quality. So quality is all about that we should follow a process, and we should respect that process. Then the quality of teaching staff, the qualifications of teaching staff, their proper training, it is important. The availability of learning resources, digital resources, the proper system of student support, information management, public information and disclosure, ongoing monitoring and periodic review of programs, these things are of primary importance. Because if we are not monitoring our performance, we will not be able to come up with improvements. So once the program has been designed, approved, implemented, then the next step would be that we are periodically monitoring the progress, its acceptability, its quality, its importance, its acceptability at the public level. So we are monitoring these things with the help of some surveys, online surveys. We should maintain a database of our graduates, and we should perform periodic checks to whether the impact which a university wants to create through its educational endeavors is hitting the target or not. That should be our agenda. And then the cyclical external quality assurance. Internal quality assurance is important. External quality assurance is also important, because external quality assurance will give confidence to the general public that this institution is doing good job as far as its mandate of higher learning is concerned. The rankings, the external quality assurance agencies will give you some rankings. So these rankings will not only earn respect and repute for your institution, these rankings will also earn repute for your country as well. Because your universities will fall under good category, good ranking. So this is not only a point of pride for the institution, it's also a point of pride and honor for the country as well. So in order to summarize, these considerations should be kept in mind that when we talk about internal quality assurance, so internal quality assurance is all about that we should also aware about the international quality standards. What is happening across the globe, across the world? So we cannot operate in silos. We cannot assume that what we are doing best. We should always be open and receptive towards the best practices that are happening in any part of the world. So the learning is the key. The learning from your competitors is the key. Even your universities that are your competitors, you should always be open to learn. So international quality standards as well as regional quality standards means a lot. Regional quality standards, in which region you are operating, you should also keep an eye on the regional quality standards, and you should come up with the best possible solution, learning from the international standards, learning from the regional standards, learning from the guidelines from professional bodies. The professional bodies includes all quality assurance agency related entities that are doing, that are performing, that are giving guidelines for the quality enhancement in education. So we should also conform, we should also be in close liaison with these professional bodies, because these professional bodies will ultimately make accreditation of your programs. So rankings are important, the accreditations of your programs are important. Your programs should not be domestically accredited. This is the era where international accreditations are important. So you will be able to do this once you have the concentrated approach towards these four elements: international quality standards, regional quality standards, the guidelines from the professional bodies, as well as you are conforming to the requirements of national quality standards, your domestic quality standards. So keep an eye on these four elements: international, regional, professional bodies, and national quality standards. So international quality standards. So for example, International Standards Organization, they have given now a new set of guidelines with respect to higher education institutions in their standards 21001. But these standards are relatively new. Even if we can adopt the approach of the previous standards that are prevalent since a quite a long time, even then we will be successful. So our concentration should be that quality is a process approach. The focus should be on the customer. And for university, the ultimate customer is the important stakeholder, that is student. We should have a systems approach. The systems approach thinking should prevail. We should understand that synergistically aligned systems can work better. The individual systems will not give the better results. The synergistically aligned systems will give better synergy, better results. The leadership vision, the factual approach, we need to understand, we should play with the data, we should have data, and we should use data for futuristic decision making. That is important. Supplier relationship, we need to understand the importance of relationship with all the stakeholders that are relevant to our institution, the potential the prospective students, the parents of those students. So the relationship with all relevant stakeholders is important. Involvement of people. We should maximize the use of our people competence, because it should be a teamwork. We should use the collective approach with respect to competence, wisdom, skill and creativity. Then we will be able to succeed in this competitive marketplace of higher education. So this is important, these approaches are important, and we also need to understand that quality is the name of continuous improvement. It's a Kaizen approach, Japanese concept. Even small incremental improvements are important. We are not talking about the breakthroughs in higher education. Even small incremental improvements in your systems will pave the way to do excellence, whatever you are doing. So,
Abbas, 5 minutes left.
This is all from my side.
Okay.
If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer your questions and queries. So I was very specific to my topic, so pertinent about my topic. So if you have any questions, please do ask your questions.
Okay. Let's get one of many questions on the chat box. The first question from Dina, Indonesia. What is the main reason for teachers to have documentation related to quality assurance?
Documentation, very good question. Documentation is the core of everything when we talk about quality assurance. Because if your activities are not documented, these will not be traceable. And you will not have any proof, any point of improvement if things are not documented. So that's why we consistently ask that teachers should have a course file, the course packs for students, including the course outline, the weekly lesson plans. So what was planned and what was actually delivered. So if these documents will be there, you can improve your systems. But if these documents are missing, you will not be able to present anything to regulatory bodies, to international ranking agencies, accreditation bodies, because they all talk about data and they all talk about the documents. So document is basically the lifeblood of quality assurance. Without documentation, without data, you cannot proceed further. You cannot promise excellence. You can run your daily operations, but without excellence. You cannot claim that we will become better. So that is the core of everything as far as quality assurance is concerned. Documentation excellence, governance excellence, rankings, accreditations, all are dependent on data and documents.
Okay, actually we have more questions, but we cannot have it in this session. We will try to send it to your email. And we will be very happy if you can...
email address in the chat box.
Okay, your email address is already
Queries are
on chat
more
box.
than welcome. So I am writing my email address in the chat box for everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amir Abbas.
To be with you. Thank you.
Okay. We are so grateful for having you in this session. Thank you for the knowledge and contribution. Okay. See you, stay safe.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Dr. Abdul Qadir Makhluk. We are sorry to inform you that Dr. Abdul Qadir Makhluk cannot join this session, but we can have his presentation through video. Dr. Abdul Qadir Makhluk, the grad lecturer from the University of Saida, Algeria. Besides teaching, he has also participated in several workshops, study days, and national and international conference on English language teaching. Ladies and gentlemen, just write down your questions for Dr. Abdul Qadir Makhluk on the chat box below. We will send it to his email.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Well, I'm very happy to be to participate in this virtual international conference on innovation of learning and higher education in the new normal COVID-19, organized by State Islamic Institute of Samarinda, Indonesia. My thanks also go to the conference organizing committee. Also, special thanks go to Dr. Abdullah Aisi for her support. Okay. Now, my presentation is entitled "Get Students Speaking Accurately, Clearly, and Appropriately." Well, in my presentation, I will take a look at some points just to help students speak accurately, clearly, and appropriately, as the title itself suggests. And we will have a look also on how necessary these 3 points, accuracy, clarity, and appropriateness, are very important in helping students get them speaking. Now, as a starting point, I would like to start by asking the question, why exactly speaking? Now, obviously that's because speaking, among other skills, or foreign language skills, listening, reading, and writing, seems intuitively the most important one. And also it's clear to say that the majority of foreign language learners, especially the university students, are more interested in learning to speak rather than writing or listening or even reading. However, there is something to be highlighted. As a teacher, you cannot magically click a button to make students speaking confidently or fluently, comfortably, but obviously as a teacher, you will help them build and reinforce their abilities and confidence without stumbling and resorting to their first language, the mother language, and even developing a fear of making mistakes. Another reason why speaking is important, that's because it's one skill that plays a great role for the learner's good overall achievement. Now the answer, sorry. Also the answer why speaking is important comes from Parton Dave, 2010, who points out that the objective of teaching the skill of speaking English is to develop the ability to express oneself intelligibly, reasonably, accurately, and fluently. And these 4 points, they are similar to the point that we are going to develop. I mean, accuracy, appropriateness, and clarity. Well, in the same line of thought, this is supported also by Byron, 1986, who points out that the ability to express oneself intelligibly, reasonably, accurately, without too much hesitation, otherwise communication may break down because the listener loses interest or gets impatient. Now, concerning the course that I'm going to talk about, we're going to focus more on a book which is entitled English for Life, Speaking, A2, which is pre-intermediate. Now this book normally are going to focus on those 3 concepts, I mean, accuracy, appropriateness, and clarity, based on this book, which has been written to help learners at A2 level and above, which means elementary to pre-intermediate. Now, concerning the objective of the course, that is part of this book, only the course is designed to help students to improve their English speaking skills in a variety of everyday situations and to widen their range of vocabulary, which is very important, including units that focus on the following areas. Now we have, in this book, we have different units. First, we have introductions with new people and describing people, things, and places. The second one is making and responding to arrangements. The third one is ordering and buying. The fourth, speaking and on the phone. The other one is developing conversations and checking for understanding. Also making a request, how to make a request, a complaint, and apology. The other one is listening to problems and showing sympathy. Also, we have saying how to say thank you and well done, and also agreeing and disagreeing and giving feedback. Now, the following slide shows the different topics. Now, as you see, the pictures show different topics. We have meeting people, describing people, talking about things, talking about places, making arrangements, making requests, ordering and buying, speaking on the phone, showing interest in a conversation, developing a conversation, and checking for understanding and listening to problems. Also, we have, within the same book, we have other important and rich topics. Sorry. Yes. Like making a complaint, making an apology, showing sympathy, saying thank you, agreeing and disagreeing, storing your opinions, giving feedback, and saying well done. Now, as far as the structure and the sections of the book, it is ordered under the following schemata. Now we have the introduction of the topic, we have conversations, we have also accuracy. Another one, which is clarity, appropriateness, and the final one, get speaking activities. So these, sections help the teacher as well as the students to go through, how to get them speaking following these points. Now, let's explain each one. Now, concerning introducing the topic, yes. Now, within this section, the teacher is going just to start with questions that are directed at the students. The aim of the questions is to introduce the topic and prepare for the material which will follow. Within the second point, which is conversation, yes, concerning conversations, the students, they read and listen to conversations. Keywords and phrases are presented in bold or color. Students check their understanding of the conversation and the keywords and phrases. Yes. The following point, which is accuracy. Yes. The students practice using the keywords and phrases correctly. Now the teacher is going to help students on getting speaking based on some activities, purely saying, helping them to acquire and to learn new words, keywords and phrases in a correct way. Concerning clarity, which is typically related to pronunciation, the students practice pronouncing the correct sounds and words. For example, linking words together, assimilation, silent letters, and contractions. Now, considering the second point, which is conversations. Now, it's we can notice the relationship between listening and speaking, because the teacher is going to provide the students with some activities in relation to conversation, and now we can notice listening in relation, speaking, which is related to listening activities. Thus, because listening practice will lead the students automatically to a strong speaking, and hence our students should be aware about the importance of listening, especially to native speakers, model of speech, which help them to get the correct intonation and the pitch. Okay, so concerning the following point, which is accuracy, now it is purely related to vocabulary and the rules of grammar. However, accuracy also can be related also to pronunciation, because the teacher will help the students to overcome the inaccurate use of separate segmental elements such as stress or intonation. Okay? Now, concerning clarity, which is purely related to pronunciation, as we said, the teacher is going to help them to get the correct sounds and just to overcome some pronunciation problems. And of course, this will lead to a certain amount of speech which is unintelligible. Now, the idea is that the students are asked to know how to pronounce words, sentences in a very clear manner. This is part of clarity. And also to overcome some problems that are related to errors that can inhibit a successful communication. For example, a mispronunciation of one sound may lead to a big misunderstanding and a change in meaning and communication problem. Because a learner who may have, let's say, a good comment also of grammar and lexis, but have difficulty in, let's say, pronouncing correct words, this will not help him to have a good and solid communication. So the other point is the last one. Appropriateness is very important also. What do you mean by appropriateness? The way how students practice using a tone and suitable intonation for example, sounding polite, formality and informality. And this is also related to pronunciation. So this would also help the students to get the correct meaning, because sometimes, for example, a person who, or a learner or student who didn't know how to get the correct intonation or the pitch would not certainly sound polite or being formal or informal. So the student needs to know how to pronounce appropriately, correctly, sounds and sentences. Now, this is very important. Get speaking activities. Now, after getting, let's say, all these points, we need to know how to make students purely being active and making them speak. So the exercises in getting speaking allows students to practice using the keywords and phrases in spoken exercises. Exercises are provided to students for role plays. For example, the teacher assigns roles to the students, makes roles cards for students. Now, after getting the chronology of, the points that we have already, it's very important to have some activities that help students get speaking, especially through, let's say, role plays, which is very important. Now, there are some useful tips that we need to take into consideration. Well, at the start of every study session, quickly the teacher needs to revise the previous and the last study session, and he needs also to check whether the students are able to remember and understand the language of the previous lesson. Now it's very important to have an example, a real lesson example. Now we have lesson objectives. It's very important to make students able to describe a person's personality, whether the students can describe a person's appearance, and whether the students is able to use the schwa sound correctly, which is part of clarity and pronunciation. The final one, which is whether the student is able to use intonation to express approval and disapproval, which is part of appropriateness. So the first point is getting started. We need to introduce the topic. For example, we have this picture which is related to the description of a person. So the teacher in the very beginning needs to introduce a topic, make the students able to talk, giving them and showing them a picture, and asking them, for example, three questions. How would you describe the man in this picture? And giving them time to answer. Then the following question is, what words would you use to describe yourself? Then the third one, how would other people describe you? Now, this is, let's say, very first stage that the teacher needs to start with, just giving or paving the way for students to talk. Then, after that, the following point, which is conversations. Now the students are going to read and listen to the 3 conversations. Now there are 3 conversations. At the same time, they are going to read. Then they listen to the conversation based on the native intonation. And the students are going to, let's say, to read and to check some vocabulary. As the question there, are the people below described in a positive way, a negative way, or both? Put a tick in the correct column. Now, there are some bold words or expressions. In this situation, they are colored with the pink. We have kind of tall, looks a bit odd, a good laugh, very intelligent, etc. We have the second conversation and the third conversation. So it's the same thing. There are some bold words like funny bench, a know-it-all, a name, dropper, complete control, freak, kind of short, a bit plump, two-faced, heart, has a heart of gold, etc. After that, these students are going to, let's say, to classify those expressions and those keywords and put them according to the table, whether they are belonging to personality or appearance. Now concerning the personality, normally there are 8 keywords, for appearance there are 5. Now concerning the following point, which is accuracy, yes. So the students are going to complete the sentences with a personal description from the conversations. So based on the conversations that are part of exercise number 2, these students are going to complete those sentences. So in this way, they are going to learn how to put accurately the suitable vocabulary and expression. So, as we have already mentioned, normally accuracy is a part of the lesson in which the students practice using the keywords and phrases correctly. Now, the following point, which is clarity. Yes, sorry. Clarity. So, as we said before, the clarity, the students, they are going to practice pronouncing the correct sounds and words. For example, linking words together, assimilations, silent words, and contractions. But in this activity, they are required to listen and repeat so that they can recognize the correct way of pronouncing the schwa. The second one, which is B, they're going to listen to the phrases, and they need also to pay attention to the weak and stressed schwa sounds that are highlighted in red. And after that, C, they are going to listen again and repeat. So this way helps the students to know how to pronounce clearly and intelligently. And this would help them also to communicate in a very correct manner. Now concerning appropriateness, yes, as we said, appropriateness in this particular point, the students are going to practice using the tone and suitable intonation, for example, sounding polite, as we said. But in here, the students are going to listen to the sentences they are going to repeat that, and they need also to pay attention to the stressed. Yes. They also need, again, to listen and to underline the stressed. Okay? See, they're going to rewrite these sentences in exercise 1 to describe someone they may know, or a character in a TV program they watch. Now, after that, as an example, the teacher is going to get, to help the student get speaking. So the final one, they are going to read the following situations and make notes to prepare the responses. Okay, so for example, the first one, they are going to talk to a friend at a party. So, for example, you are talking to your friend at a party and she asks you about a male guest. So, in this situation, you are going to say his name and then 2 negative things about him and explain your opinion. So, the idea is that, after getting all those points in terms of appropriateness, clarity, accuracy, etc., now they need to get their own space of talking based on some activities. So this would help them to speak and to talk freely in some real-life situations. For example, in the second point, next, she asks you about a female guest. So say 2 positive things about Anna and explain your opinion. Now, if you notice, these activities are related to the topic of the session, which is related to the description in relation to personality. And the third one, she asks you if you know a group of people. So you say 2 negative things about the group and explain your opinion. So the idea is that, the chronology of the session would help the students to get different aspects, like how to speak clearly, accurately, and appropriately. And thank you very much.
Okay, please big applause for Dr. Abdul Karim Makhluk and all outstanding presenters today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, time really flies and we have already spent about an hour and a half with a very fantastic speakers, beneficial materials, and of course, amazing participants. We can sum up that technology must be very important before, during, and after pandemic situation. All teachers and educators should aware of it. But no matter how great the technology is, the presence of the teacher can never be replaced. Finally, this is the end of the session. I am, as the moderator and the team of Virtual International Conference 2020, IAIN Samarinda, Indonesia, we thank you very much for being with us today. See you tomorrow. Stay healthy and keep positive. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Kota ini cukup besar dan padat, memiliki sungai terpanjang dan menggunakan simbol satwa endemik besur. Ialah Kota Samarinda, merupakan pusat pemerintahan ibu kota Kalimantan Timur. Dari masa ke masa, kota ini terus menunjukkan peningkatan, tak hanya di sektor perekonomian, namun juga di sektor pendidikan. Institut Agama Islam Negeri Samarinda merupakan pendidikan tinggi pertama yang mengedepankan pengetahuan agama Islam. Merupakan buah tangan dari beberapa tokoh yang tergabung dalam organisasi Islam. Demi meningkatkan mutu pendidikan, IAIN Samarinda terus melakukan serangkaian kerjasama di bidang pendidikan, baik bertaraf nasional maupun internasional, melalui program kerjasama yang dijalin dengan berbagai lembaga terkait. Sejak berdiri, sampai sekarang Institut Agama Islam Negeri IAIN Samarinda telah mengalami 9 kali periode kepemimpinan. Tokoh-tokoh inilah yang membawa IAIN Samarinda tumbuh dan berkembang dan terus mengalami kemajuan dan peningkatan dari waktu ke waktu. Infrastruktur pendidikan didukung beberapa gedung bertingkat, dilengkapi dengan fasilitas penunjang berupa gedung perpustakaan, laboratorium, dan masjid untuk praktik ilmu agama Islam dengan menerapkan konsep lingkungan hijau.
والقلم وما يسطرون
ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون.
Tidak hanya pada tumbuh kembang fasilitas, namun juga pengembangan pada fakultas dan jurusan seperti Fakultas Tarbiyah dan Ilmu Keguruan, Fakultas Syariah, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis Islam, Fakultas Ushuluddin, Adab dan Dakwah, Program Pasca Sarjana atau Magister, Untuk menjamin kualitas pendidikan, di tiap fakultas IAIN Samarinda memiliki lembaga penjamin mutu atau LPM yang menjadi pusat quality assurance dalam menciptakan budaya mutu tridharma perguruan tinggi demi mewujudkan visi IAIN Samarinda. Sebagai perguruan tinggi keagamaan Islam negeri di Kalimantan Timur, IAIN Samarinda selalu mengedepankan pendalaman ilmu agama Islam namun tidak mengesampingkan ilmu pengetahuan, penguasaan bahasa Arab dan bahasa Inggris dengan bimbingan dosen yang berpengalaman di taraf nasional maupun internasional agar mereka nantinya mampu meraih prestasi yang membanggakan. Untuk itu, IAIN Samarinda memandang perlu adanya sebuah lembaga yang mampu melaksanakan program unggulan. Maka dibentuklah Ma'had Al-Jami'ah atau pesantren kampus. Dengan diikuti seluruh mahasiswa baru IAIN Samarinda dalam kurun waktu 1 tahun. Terlepas dari itu, puluhan unit kegiatan mahasiswa hadir untuk mengembangkan minat bakat serta potensi mahasiswa.
This event will be our last big event because the next generation.
Sebagai cikal bakal ibu kota negara yang baru, IAIN akan berevolusi menjadi Universitas Islam Negeri dengan meningkatkan fasilitas yang dimiliki, tenaga pengajar, hingga terus mencetak prestasi. IAIN Samarinda bersama pemerintah Provinsi Kalimantan Timur terus bekerja sama dalam peningkatan mutu pendidikan melalui berbagai cara. Salah satunya pemberian beasiswa, serta tidak kalah pentingnya lulusan perguruan tinggi mampu mengisi formasi-formasi pekerjaan, baik di pemerintahan ataupun swasta.